When a single spilled glass of champagne puts you face to face with the man who destroyed your family, you have two choices: run or survive. Nadia Valenko thought she'd buried her past 12 years ago in the ashes of Moscow. She was wrong. The most dangerous man in Manhattan just recognized her native tongue, and with it, every secret she's been hiding. Tonight, in a room full of monsters wearing $1,000 suits, she's about to learn that some debts are written in blood, and some men never forget. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Because what happens next will change everything. The rain came down like bullets against the glass. Nadia Valenko moved through the dining room of Velvet Sovereign with the practiced invisibility of someone who'd spent years learning how not to be seen. The tray balanced on her palm held 6 champagne flutes, each one worth more than her monthly rent. She didn't think about that. Couldn't afford to. Think too much, and your hands start shaking, and shaking hands meant broken crystal, and broken crystal meant getting fired from the only job keeping her mother's cancer treatment funded. The club occupied the top 3 floors of a building that didn't officially exist on any city registry. No sign on the door, no website, no phone number you could call unless you already had it. The kind of place where senators sat 3 tables away from arms dealers and nobody asked questions because everyone had something to hide. Nadia had been working here for 8 months and she'd learned the rules fast. Don't make eye contact. Don't listen to conversations. Don't remember faces. Above all, don't speak unless spoken to. She was good at it, being invisible. She'd had 12 years of practice. The man at table 7 was drinking faster than the others. Nadia noticed because noticing was survival. He was younger than most of the clientele, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of face that belonged on currency. Sharp jaw, silver gray eyes that tracked movement like a predator watching prey. His suit probably cost more than her car, and he wore it the way soldiers wore armor. Damian Krylov. She'd heard the name whispered in the kitchen, heard it and felt ice spread through her veins because there were names you didn't want to know in a place like this. He sat alone at a table meant for 8, surrounded by empty chairs and untouched place settings. The other diners gave his section a wide berth, like sharks respecting another shark's territory. Nadia wasn't supposed to be serving his table, but Marcus, the senior waiter, had called in sick, and shortage meant coverage, and coverage meant you took what you got and didn't complain. She approached with her eyes down, professional smile fixed in place, lifted the first glass from her tray. That's when her heel caught the edge of the carpet. Time did that thing it does in disasters, stretched out like taffy while her body pitched forward and the tray tilted and 6 crystal glasses went airborne in an arc of champagne and gravity. She watched them fall, watched them shatter across Damian Krylov's table in an explosion of glass and liquid gold. The entire room went silent, not the polite hush of interrupted conversation, the dead silence of witnesses at an execution. Nadia's breath stopped. Her mind screamed run, but her legs had turned to concrete. Champagne dripped from the edge of the table onto a suit that probably cost $15,000. Shattered crystal glittered across white linen like diamonds on snow. Damian Krylov hadn't moved. He sat perfectly still, champagne soaking into the sleeve of his jacket, eyes locked on her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. "I'm sorry." The words came out strangled. "I'm so sorry. I'll get something to clean." His hand shot out. Fast. Too fast. Fingers wrapped around her wrist like an iron cuff. Nadia's heart slammed against her ribs. Up close, she could see the scar that cut through his left eyebrow. Could smell expensive cologne mixed with something darker. Gun oil, maybe? Or blood. Then he spoke. In Russian. "Будь осторожна." Be careful. The world tilted. Nadia stared at him, this stranger, this monster, speaking her first language with the precision of someone who'd grown up with it, who'd learned it the way she had, on streets that didn't forgive mistakes. Her mouth opened before her brain could stop it. "Prostite." Sorry. The word came out automatically, native, unfiltered. Something shifted behind Damian's eyes. He released her wrist but didn't look away, just studied her face like he was solving a puzzle he'd been working on for years. "You're Russian." Not a question, a statement. Nadia's throat closed. Every instinct screamed, deny it, lie, run. But lies required thinking, and her brain had short-circuited the moment he touched her. My family immigrated when I was young. What's your name? She shouldn't answer, shouldn't give him anything, but his voice carried the kind of authority that made defiance feel impossible. Nadia. Full name. Her pulse hammered. Nadia Valenko. The reaction was microscopic, a slight narrowing of his eyes, a tension in his jaw that hadn't been there before. He knew the name. Dear God, he knew it. Clean this up, Damien said quietly. Released her wrist, gestured to the mess. Then bring me another bottle. The 2008 Cristal. He stood, stepping away from the table like the shattered glass was already forgotten. But as he passed her, he leaned in close enough that she could feel his breath against her ear. Don't leave when your shift ends, he whispered. We need to talk about your father. Then he was gone, moving toward the private elevators like a shadow made of expensive fabric and controlled violence. Nadia stood frozen among the wreckage, champagne soaking into her shoes, while her entire world collapsed for the second time in her life. Shake. The kitchen was chaos and heat and shouting. Nadia moved through it on autopilot, grabbing towels and a dustpan while her mind spun in circles. Her father. He'd said her father's name. How did he know her father? How did he know anything? You okay? Chen, one of the line cooks, touched her shoulder. You're white as a sheet. I'm fine. The lie tasted like ash. I just dropped a tray. It's fine. It wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. She cleaned the table with shaking hands, replacing the ruined linen and resetting the place settings while her brain ran through possibilities like a rat in a maze. Damien Krylov knew her father. That meant he knew Moscow, knew the organization, knew about the money, knew what had happened 12 years ago when everything went to hell. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of automated movements. Serve drinks, clear plates, smile at customers who looked through her like she was furniture. Every minute ticked by like a countdown to detonation. At 1 a.m., the club started emptying, politicians and criminals filtering out into the rain-soaked night in armored cars and private sedans. The staff began cleanup while Nadia changed out of her uniform in the employee bathroom, hands trembling so badly she could barely button her coat. She should run, go straight home, grab her mother, disappear into the American heartland where men like Damien Krylov didn't exist. Except running required money she didn't have, and time she'd already lost, and her mother was scheduled for another round of chemo in 6 days that she couldn't miss. Nadia stepped out of the bathroom into the employee corridor. Damien Krylov was waiting. He stood near the service elevator, hands in his pockets, looking like he had all the time in the world. The silver-gray eyes tracked her movement with the same predatory focus from earlier. Walk with me. Not a request. Nadia's mouth went dry. Your mother is Anna Valenko, yes? Currently being treated at Mount Sinai for stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Chemo every 2 weeks. Next appointment is Tuesday. Ice flooded her veins. How do you... I know a lot of things, Nadia. He gestured toward the elevator. Walk with me, and I'll explain. Run, and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering when I'll come looking for you again. The truth was a knife between her ribs. She couldn't run, couldn't hide. Men like this didn't make empty threats. Nadia walked. The elevator descended in silence. Damien stood on the opposite side of the car, giving her space but blocking the exit. His presence filled the small space like smoke, invisible but suffocating. Your father was Alexei Valenko, he said quietly. Brilliant accountant. Worked for the Sarnov organization in Moscow for 7 years before he decided to steal $30 million and disappear. Nadia's hands clenched into fists. My father was an accountant. He got caught up with bad people. That's all. Your father was a thief and a coward. Damien's voice stayed level. Clinical. He stole from people who don't forgive theft. Then he ran to me begging for protection. The elevator doors opened onto an underground parking garage. Rain hammered against the concrete ramp leading to street level. A black SUV idled near the entrance, windows tinted dark enough to hide bodies. Nadia stopped walking. I'm not getting in that car. Yes, you are. The hell I am, her voice cracked. You think I don't know what happens to people who get in cars with men like you? Damien turned to face her fully. In the harsh fluorescent light, she could see details she'd missed before. The scar through his eyebrow wasn't the only one. A thin white line ran along his jaw. Another disappeared into his collar. This was a man who'd survived things that killed other people. "I'm offering you a ride home," he said. "Nothing more. You're soaked, it's raining, and you live 45 minutes away by subway. I'm going to explain some things about your situation. Then you're going to make some decisions. But I'm not going to hurt you, Nadia. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead." The logic was sound. The logic was also terrifying. "What do you want from me?" "To talk." He opened the SUV's back door. "Get in." Every instinct screamed run. But Nadia was exhausted and scared and her feet hurt, and this man already knew where her mother was being treated, which meant he could find them whenever he wanted. She got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and gun oil. Damien slid in beside her, maintaining a careful distance. The driver pulled out into rain-slicked streets without a word. "Your father came to me in 2014, Damien said he had information about Sarnov's operations in exchange for protection, said he had a family he needed to keep safe, a wife, a daughter." Nadia's nails dug into her palms. "What did you do?" "I told him to disappear, that I didn't get involved in Sarnov business." Damien stared out the window. 3 days later, they found him in a warehouse in Brooklyn. They tortured him for 18 hours before putting a bullet in his head. The words landed like punches. Nadia had been 15 when her father died, old enough to understand he was gone, not old enough to understand what gone really meant. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I was wrong." Damien's jaw tightened. "I should have helped him, should have given him the protection he asked for. Instead, I let him die, and I've regretted it every day since." "So this is guilt?" Nadia laughed, sharp and bitter. "You feel bad about letting my father get murdered, so now you're… what? Playing protector? Making amends?" "I'm making things right." "You can't make this right. My father is dead, my mother is dying. You don't get to swoop in now and pretend you're some kind of savior." The SUV stopped at a red light. Rain hammered the roof like drum beats. Damien turned to look at her directly. "Your mother's treatment is expensive. That's none of your business. Her insurance only covers 60%. You're working 2 jobs to make up the difference. The club and weekend shifts at a coffee shop in Queens. You're barely sleeping, barely eating, and in 3 months when the cancer comes back, and it will come back, you won't have enough saved to cover another round." Nadia's breath caught. "How do you…" "I told you, I know things." He pulled a business card from his jacket. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. "I can make the medical bills disappear. Full coverage, best doctors in the country. Experimental treatments if necessary." She stared at the card like it was a live grenade. "In exchange for what?" "Nothing." "Bullshit." "I'm serious." Damien placed the card on the seat between them. "Consider it repayment for what I owe your family. No strings, no obligations." Nadia wanted to throw it in his face, wanted to scream that blood money couldn't buy forgiveness. But her mother's face flashed through her mind, pale and gaunt in the hospital bed, trying to smile through the pain. "Why now?" Her voice came out hoarse. "You've known where I was this whole time, haven't you? I've been watching you for 3 years." The admission should have terrified her. It did terrify her. But there was something else underneath, something that felt almost like relief that she wasn't alone in the dark anymore. "What do you want from me, Damien?" He was quiet for a long moment. The SUV turned onto her street, pulling up outside the walk-up apartment building where she and her mother lived in a 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor. "I want you to be safe," he said finally. "Your father asked me for protection, and I failed him. I won't make that mistake twice." "I don't need protection." "Yes, you do." His eyes locked on hers. "Viktor Sarnov is still alive, still running the organization your father stole from. And if he ever finds out Alexei Valenko's daughter is alive and living in Manhattan, he won't find out. He will. Eventually." Damien opened the car door. "Take the card. Think about the offer. I'll be in touch." Nadia grabbed the card before she could stop herself, shoved it in her pocket, and climbed out into the rain. She made it 3 steps before turning back. "Why Russian? In the club. You could have spoken English." Damien smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I wanted to see if you'd answer, if you'd trust your instincts." "And?" "You did." The door closed. The SUV pulled away, taillights disappearing into the rain. Nadia stood on the sidewalk, soaked to the skin, gripping a business card that felt like a chain around her neck. Inside her pocket, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the message. Your mother's next treatment has been paid in full. The card is for anything else she needs. Use it. DK. Nadia stared at the screen until rain blurred the letters into meaningless shapes. Then she looked up at her apartment building, at the window on the third floor where her mother was probably sleeping fitfully, and understood with perfect clarity that her old life had just ended, whether she wanted it to or not. The next morning came too fast and too bright. Nadia dragged herself out of bed after 3 hours of broken sleep, mind still churning through last night's conversation. The business card sat on her nightstand like evidence of a crime she hadn't committed yet. Her mother was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with her tea and her crossword puzzle. Anna Valenko had been beautiful once. Nadia remembered photos from before, dark hair, bright eyes, the kind of smile that made strangers stop and look twice. Cancer had carved that beauty down to bone and determination. You look terrible, Anna said without looking up. Bad shift? Something like that. Nadia poured coffee she didn't want. How are you feeling? Like I'm being slowly poisoned. Which I am. Anna filled in another word. The hospital called, said there was a payment error, that my account shows a zero balance. Nadia's hand froze on the coffee pot. What? I told them to check again. They said someone paid off everything. The chemo, the medications, even the consultation fees. Anna finally looked up. Her eyes were sharp despite the exhaustion. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? The lie formed automatically. No, maybe it's insurance? We both know insurance doesn't work like that. Anna set down her pen. Who'd you talk to, Nadia? Nobody? Don't lie to me. I raised you better than that. The weight of the secret pressed against Nadia's chest like a physical thing. She wanted to tell her mother everything. Wanted to explain about Damian Krylov and the card and the impossible offer. But how do you explain that the man who let your father die now wants to save your mother's life? It's handled, Nadia said quietly. That's all you need to know. Nadia. Mama, please. She gripped the counter. Just let me handle this, okay? Anna studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly, picking up her crossword again. Your father used to say that too. Let me handle this. Right before everything went to hell. The words hung in the air like smoke. Nadia left for work without finishing her coffee. Check. The coffee shop in Queens was the opposite of Velvet Sovereign. Bright lights, cheap tables. Customers who yelled at her about milk foam and argued over 50-cent upcharges. Normal people problems. Normal people. Nadia clung to normal like a lifeline for the first 3 hours of her shift. Made lattes. Cleaned tables. Pretended last night hadn't happened. Then at noon, a man in an expensive suit walked in. Not Damian. Someone else. Older, with gray hair and the kind of face that suggested military background. He ordered black coffee and sat by the window reading a newspaper that nobody under 60 read anymore. Nadia noticed because noticing was survival. He was watching her. Not obviously, not creepy, just aware. Tracking her movements the way professionals did. She finished her shift at 2 and left through the back entrance. The man in the suit was leaning against the brick wall, waiting. Miss Valenko. He didn't move. Didn't threaten. Just stood there like a boulder. Mr. Krylov would like to invite you to dinner. Tonight. 7 p.m. Vesper on the Upper East Side. Nadia's pulse kicked up. Tell Mr. Krylov I'm not interested. He anticipated that response. The man pulled out an envelope. He asked me to give you this. She took it because refusing felt more dangerous than accepting. Inside was a photograph. Her mother, leaving the hospital, yesterday, and standing 20 feet behind her in the background, a man with a camera. Nadia's blood turned to ice. Who is that? Someone who shouldn't be there. The gray-haired man straightened. Mr. Krylov's people noticed him yesterday. Noticed him again this morning outside your apartment. He's not one of ours. Then who? Who? That's what Mr. Krylov wants to discuss. 7 p.m. Vesper. A car will pick you up at 6:30. He turned to leave, paused. For what it's worth, Miss Valenko, if someone is watching your mother, You want Damian Krylov on your side. Trust me on that." He disappeared around the corner before Nadia could respond. She stood in the alley, staring at the photograph, watching her mother's oblivious smile while a stranger with a camera documented her movements. Her phone buzzed. Damian Krylov. A number she didn't remember saving, but somehow had anyway. The man in the photo works for Viktor Sarnov. Dinner isn't optional anymore. See you at 7. DK Nadia's hands started shaking. She'd spent 12 years hiding. 12 years building a life so normal and boring that nobody would ever think to look for her. And in less than 24 hours, Damian Krylov had shattered that illusion completely. The worst part? He'd been right. She did need protection. And the only person offering it was the man who'd let her father die. Vesper occupied the ground floor of a building that probably had more security than Fort Knox. Nadia arrived at 6:55 in the same dress she wore to her mother's last doctor's appointment because it was the only thing she owned that didn't smell like coffee or champagne. The gray-haired man, who still hadn't given his name, escorted her inside. The restaurant was empty. Completely empty. Tables set for service but no other diners, just staff moving like ghosts through candlelit space. Damian sat at a table by the window, already waiting. He stood when she approached, the gesture so automatic it had to be trained. "You rented out the entire restaurant," Nadia said flatly. "I value privacy." He pulled out her chair. "Sit." She sat because her legs were shaking. The man in the photo is named Sergei Volkov, former FSB, now freelance surveillance. Damian settled across from her. "He arrived in New York 4 days ago. Started watching your mother 3 days ago. You, 2 days ago." "How do you know this?" "Because watching people is what I do, Nadia, and I'm better at it than Sarnov's people." A waiter appeared with wine, poured without asking, disappeared like smoke. Nadia ignored the glass. "What does Sarnov want?" "The money your father stole." "What else?" "That was 12 years ago. The money's gone." "Is it?" Damian leaned back. $30 million doesn't just disappear. Your father was brilliant with numbers, brilliant with hiding things. Sarnov has been looking for that money since the day Alexei died. Well, he's wasting his time. We don't have it. I believe you. Damian sipped his wine. Unfortunately, Sarnov doesn't. And as long as he thinks you might know something, you're a target. The reality settled over her like concrete. So what do I do? You let me protect you. By doing what? Hiding me? Putting me in some safe house while men with guns stand guard? Nadia's voice rose. That's not a life. That's a prison. It's survival. It's bullshit. She stood abruptly. I've spent 12 years surviving, building something normal, taking care of my mother, and you show up and destroy all of it in one night. I didn't destroy anything. I revealed what was already there. Damian's calm never cracked. You were never safe, Nadia. You just didn't know it yet. The truth of it burned. She wanted to scream at him, wanted to throw the wine in his face and storm out and pretend none of this was happening. But pretending didn't stop bullets. Didn't stop men like Sergei Volkov from taking photographs of her mother. Nadia sank back into the chair, suddenly exhausted. What do you get out of this? What do you mean? Don't play stupid. You're not doing this out of guilt. Men like you don't work that way. So what's your angle? What do you want from me? Damian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something she hadn't heard before. Something almost like honesty. I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror, he said quietly. I failed your father. Let him die because I didn't want the complication. That decision has haunted me for 12 years. So yes, maybe this is guilt. Maybe it's penance. But it's also the right thing to do. Since when do men like you care about right and wrong? Since I met someone who made me remember there's a difference. The words hung between them like a confession. Nadia studied his face in the candlelight, saw the scars and the exhaustion, and something else underneath, something broken that had learned to function broken. I can't trust you, she said finally. I know. My father trusted you and you let him die. I know. And now you want me to put my life, my mother's life, in your hands. Yes? Damian met her eyes. I'm asking you to take a leap of faith, not because I've earned it, but because the alternative is worse. Nadia wanted to hate him for being right, wanted to hate him for showing up in her life and forcing her to confront realities she'd spent years running from. But sitting across from him in the empty restaurant, watching rain streak down the windows while the city burned with light beyond the glass, she realized she was tired of running, tired of being afraid, tired of pretending. What happens now? Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Damien pulled out his phone, showed her the screen, security footage, her apartment building. Sergei Volkov entering the lobby at 3 a.m. Nadia's blood froze. When was this? This morning. My people stopped him in the stairwell. Damien closed the phone. He won't be a problem anymore. The implications crashed over her. You killed him. I removed a threat. There's a difference. Jesus Christ. You need to understand something, Nadia. Damien's voice went cold, hard. These men don't play by rules. They don't care about laws or ethics or mercy. They will hurt you to get what they want. They will hurt your mother, and they won't stop until you give them the money or until you're dead. I don't have the money. Then we find it. He stood, extending his hand. Come with me, right now. I have a car outside that will take you and your mother somewhere safe while I deal with Sarnov's people. Nadia stared at his outstretched hand. This was the moment. The point of no return. Take his hand, and she stepped into a world of violence and shadows and men who solved problems with bullets. Refuse, and she went home to an apartment that was already compromised, to a mother who was already being hunted. Some choices aren't really choices. Nadia took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong and absolutely certain. I won't let anything happen to you, Damien said quietly. I promise. Your promises don't mean much to me. Then I'll earn them. He pulled her toward the exit, starting now. They made it halfway across the restaurant before the windows exploded. Glass rained down like frozen stars. Nadia hit the floor before her brain registered the sound. Damien's body covered hers, one arm wrapped around her head while the other went to his waist. She felt the weight of him, the hardness of muscle, and the chemical smell of adrenaline mixing with expensive cologne. Gunfire. Not the clean pops from movies. This was louder, meaner, the kind of sound that lived in your chest afterwards. Stay down. Damien's voice was flat, professional. He rolled off her and had a gun in his hand that she hadn't seen him carrying. Victor. The gray-haired man materialized from nowhere, weapon already drawn. 4 shooters, street level, SUV blocking the east exit. The kitchen? Clear for now. Damien grabbed Nadia's wrist and hauled her up. Her ears were ringing. Her knees wanted to buckle. She could see staff members pressed flat behind the bar, faces white with terror. Move! He pulled her toward the back. They made it 3 steps before the front door exploded inward. 2 men in dark tactical gear stormed through the opening. Professional. Military movement. Weapons raised in trained grips. Victor fired twice. Both men went down, but more were coming. Nadia could see shadows moving outside, shapes against streetlights. The kitchen door slammed open behind them. A 3rd shooter. Damien spun, fired without seeming to aim. The man dropped. Jesus Christ! Nadia couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Not the time. Damien dragged her through a service corridor. Behind them, gunfire echoed like thunder in a closed space. Victor was shouting orders into a phone. Glass kept breaking. Someone was screaming. They burst into the kitchen, stainless steel and white tile, and 2 terrified cooks huddled near the walk-in freezer. Damien didn't slow down. Pulled her through the prep area toward a rear exit. The door flew open before they reached it. A man stepped through. Older, 50s maybe. Expensive suit ruined by rain and violence. He held a pistol loosely, like it was an extension of his hand. Behind him, 3 more armed men. Damien stopped. Put himself between Nadia and the newcomers. The older man smiled. It was the worst smile Nadia had ever seen, empty of everything except calculation. Damien Krylov. His accent was thick Russian, familiar. You are protecting the Valenko girl. How sentimental. Maxim. Damien's gun stayed level. Sarnov send you to do his dirty work? Victor sends his regards, says to tell you some debts never expire. The money's gone. We shall see. Maxim's eyes shifted to Nadia. She looks like her father. Same eyes. I wonder if she screams the same way he did. Rage flashed across Damien's face. "You're not touching her." "Am I not?" Maxime gestured lazily. His men moved forward. Damien fired. The world exploded into noise and muzzle flash. Nadia screamed but couldn't hear it over the gunfire. Damien was moving, pulling her down behind a prep table while bullets tore through stainless steel. Victor appeared in the main corridor, firing controlled bursts. One of Maxime's men went down, then another, but there were too many. Damien grabbed a metal tray, flung it hard at the nearest shooter. The man stumbled. Damien closed the distance in 2 strides and slammed the gun from his hand, followed with an elbow that crunched bone. Efficient, brutal. No wasted movement. Nadia had seen violence before. Moscow streets taught you young. But this was different. This was professional murder dressed in expensive suits. The freezer. Damien hauled her up again, blood on his shirt, not his. Now, they scrambled toward the walk-in. Victor was still firing, holding position near the corridor. Maxime had disappeared behind cover. The freezer door was heavy, industrial. Damien yanked it open and shoved Nadia inside. "Wait here." "Like hell, wait, here." His eyes were chips of ice. "I'll come back for you. Don't open this door for anyone but me." He slammed it shut before she could protest. The cold hit her immediately. Nadia stood among hanging beef carcasses and frozen vegetable crates, breath pluming in the air, while gunfire continued beyond the thick walls. Muffled, distant, but still happening. She counted heartbeats, tried to slow her breathing, failed. 30 seconds, 60. The gunfire stopped. Silence pressed in like a physical weight. Nadia's hand found the door handle. Damien said, "Wait," said, "Don't open it." But silence after gunfire meant someone won. And if it wasn't Damien, the door flew open. Nadia lurched back, heart in her throat. Damien stood there, alive, blood on his face but walking. Behind him, Victor was dragging a body. "Clear," Damien said, reached for her hand. "We need to leave, now." She let him pull her out, tried not to look at the bodies, failed. 3 men down in the kitchen, more in the corridor beyond. The cooks were gone. Staff had fled, just corpses and shattered glass. "Maxime?" Nadia's voice shook. "Ran when his men went down." Damien moved fast toward the rear exit. "He'll call for backup. We have maybe 5 minutes before this place is swarming with Sarnov's people." They emerged into an alley. Rain had turned to freezing drizzle. A black sedan idled 20 feet away, engine running. Different driver. Young woman with hard eyes. "Sir?" "Alexandra, get us to the safe house." Damien pushed Nadia into the back seat, climbed in after her. "Call ahead. Tell them we're coming hot." The car peeled out before the doors fully closed. Nadia pressed against the leather seat, shaking. Not from cold, from shock. From the reality of what had just happened crashing over her in waves. "You killed them." Her voice came out flat, distant. "Yes. Just like that. No hesitation." "They came to kill you, Nadia. I don't hesitate when someone threatens what's mine." The possessiveness in his tone should have angered her, should have triggered every independent instinct. Instead, she felt something else. Something she didn't want to examine. "This is insane." She pressed her palms against her eyes. "This is fucking insane. Normal people don't." "We're not normal people." Damien stripped off his jacket. Blood spattered, ruined. Underneath, his shirt was pristine except for one sleeve. "And you stopped being normal the moment your father stole from Viktor Sarnov. I was 50, and now you're 27, old enough to understand that sins get inherited whether we deserve them or not." Nadia wanted to scream, wanted to hit him, wanted to jump out of the moving car and run until her legs gave out. But where would she run? Back to her apartment that was already compromised? Back to her mother, who was a target now too? "Where are we going?" She forced the question out. "Somewhere safe. Then we're getting your mother. She doesn't know about any of this. She can't." "She will now." Damien pulled out his phone, dialed. "Marcus, get a team to Mount Sinai. Anna Valenko, patient in the oncology ward, full protective detail. Anyone tries to get near her, you put them down." "Yes, now." He hung up. Nadia stared at him. "You can't just... She's in a hospital. There are rules. Rules don't apply anymore." His eyes met hers, hard, uncompromising. Sarnov just sent an assault team to kill you in a public restaurant. He's past subtlety, which means everyone you care about is a potential target. The truth of it was a physical weight. Her mother, alone in a hospital bed, weak from chemo, completely vulnerable. I need to see her. You will, after I secure the location. Now, Damien, it's not safe. I don't give a shit about safe, her voice cracked. My mother is dying of cancer, and now she's got armed men guarding her hospital room because of me. I need to see her. I need to explain. Explain what? That your father was a thief? That the Russian mafia wants you dead? That the only thing standing between her and a bullet is a man she doesn't know? The words hit like slaps. Nadia turned away, staring out the window at rain-blurred streets. Manhattan rolled past in streaks of light and shadow. I hate you, she said quietly. I know. You did this. You inserted yourself into my life and destroyed everything. No. I revealed what was always there. Damien's voice stayed level. You were living on borrowed time, Nadia. This was always coming. I just accelerated the timeline. She wanted to argue, wanted to prove him wrong, couldn't. The car pulled into an underground garage. Concrete and fluorescent lights and armed security that nodded at Damien like he owned the building. He probably did. They took a private elevator to the 23rd floor. The doors opened onto a penthouse that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Minimalist furniture. Art that probably cost more than most people's houses. And everywhere, subtle signs of security, cameras, reinforced doors. Windows that were definitely bulletproof. Guest room is down the hall, Damien gestured. Bathroom's stocked. There's clothes in the closet that should fit. Get cleaned up. We leave for the hospital in 20 minutes. Nadia didn't move. Why are you doing this? I told you. No, not the guilt speech, the real reason. She stepped closer, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried. You don't build an empire like yours by being sentimental. So what is it? What do you actually want from me? Damien was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out, touched her face, just fingertips against her cheek. The gesture was so unexpected, so gentle compared to the violence of an hour ago, that Nadia forgot to breathe. I want you safe, he said quietly. That's all. That's enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. He dropped his hand and walked away, disappearing into another part of the penthouse. Nadia stood in the massive living room, surrounded by wealth and security and the lingering smell of gun smoke on her clothes. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this was really about protecting her. But men like Damien Krylov didn't do anything without calculation. Didn't protect people out of pure altruism. There was an angle, a reason. And until she knew what it was, she couldn't afford to let her guard down. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and slow death. Nadia walked through the oncology ward with Damien at her side and two of his security team trailing behind. The nurses recognized her, but their eyes kept sliding to the armed men with barely concealed confusion. Her mother's room was at the end of the corridor. Two more of Damien's people stood outside the door. They nodded as Damien approached. Anyone try to get in? Damien asked. Dr. Chen at 9 p.m. Verified credentials. One nurse for vitals at 10. Otherwise quiet. Keep it that way. Nadia pushed past them into the room. Her mother was awake, sitting up in bed, watching the door with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Nadia, Anna's voice was hoarse from medication. Want to explain why there are men with guns outside my room? The lie formed automatically. It's a precaution. The hospital's had some security issues. Don't bullshit me. Anna's gaze shifted to Damien. And who are you? Damien Krylov. He stepped forward, extending his hand. Friend of your daughter's. Anna didn't take it, just studied him like a scientist examining a specimen. You paid my medical bills. Yes. Why? Because I owed your family a debt. Something flickered in Anna's expression. Recognition. You knew Alexei. It wasn't a question. Damien's jaw tightened. Yes. Before or after Moscow? Both. The single word carried weight. Anna's fingers tightened on the blanket. When she spoke again, her voice was ice. Get out. Mama, Nadia started. Not you. Him. Anna's eyes never left Damien. You're one of them. One of the men who got my husband killed. And now you show up pretending to be a savior? Get the hell out of my room. Damien didn't move. Viktor Sarnov sent men to kill your daughter tonight. They attacked a restaurant, tried to grab her off the street. As long as he thinks she knows where the money is, she's a target. We don't have the money. Sarnov doesn't believe that, which means you both need protection whether you like it or not. Anna laughed, sharp, bitter. Protection from men like you got Alexei tortured to death. Forgive me if I don't trust your methods. Mama, please. Nadia moved between them. This isn't... We don't have a choice right now. There's always a choice. Not this time. Nadia's voice cracked. They know where we live, where you get treatment, where I work. Damien's people are the only thing standing between us and whatever Sarnov has planned. Anna stared at her daughter, really looked at her, saw the fear, the exhaustion, the desperation. Her expression softened fractionally. How bad is it? Nadia sank into the chair beside the bed. Bad. Really bad. Tell me. So Nadia told her, not everything, not the part where Damien had let her father die, but enough. The spilled champagne, the recognition, the surveillance photos, the gunfight at Vesper. Anna listened without interrupting. When Nadia finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Damien. If I agree to this, if I let you protect us, I want guarantees. Such as? My daughter doesn't get hurt, doesn't get pulled deeper into your world than necessary. And when this is over, we walk away clean. I can't guarantee clean. Damien's honesty was almost brutal. But I can guarantee I'll do everything in my power to keep her safe. Your power got my husband killed. Yes, it did. Damien's voice went quiet. I made a choice 12 years ago that I've regretted every day since. I can't undo that, but I can make sure history doesn't repeat itself. Anna studied him for a long, tense moment. You're in love with her, she said finally. Nadia's head snapped up. What? No, Mama, that's not... I wasn't asking you. Anna's eyes stayed locked on Damien. Was I right? Damien didn't flinch, didn't deny it. That's not relevant to keeping her alive. It's completely relevant, because men in love make stupid decisions, reckless decisions, and I won't let my daughter become collateral damage in whatever game you're playing. This isn't a game. Everything is a game to men like you. Anna leaned back against her pillows, exhausted. But you're right about one thing. We don't have many options, so here's my terms. You protect us. You find out what Sarnov actually wants. And when this is resolved, you let us go back to our lives. No strings, no obligations, no emotional entanglements. The last part was directed at both of them. Nadia felt her face heat. Mama, I'm not... There's nothing... I have eyes, Dochka. Anna's tone softened. I see how you look at him, and I see how he looks at you, which is exactly why this needs boundaries. Damien moved to the window, stared out at the city lights. I agree to your terms on one condition, which is, you both do exactly what I say when I say it. No arguments, no hesitation. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide. Your survival depends on trust, and I need to know you'll listen. Anna considered this. As long as your orders don't contradict my daughter's well-being, they won't. Then we have a deal. She extended her hand. Damien crossed the room and shook it. Brief, professional. But Nadia saw the relief in his shoulders. The tension releasing. I'll have you moved to a private facility by morning, he said. Somewhere more secure. Better doctors. Full staff. I'm not leaving Mount Sinai. Mrs. Valenko. I'm not leaving. My doctors know my case. My treatment plan is here. Disrupting that now could set back my recovery by months. Anna's tone brooked no argument. You want me to trust you? Then trust my judgment on this. Damien's jaw worked. Double the security detail. No one in or out without clearance. And Nadia stays with me at the penthouse. Absolutely not, Nadia started. Yes, Anna cut her off. If what you're saying is true, the safest place for her is wherever you have the most control. I don't like it, but I'm not stupid enough to let pride kill my daughter. Mama, This isn't up for debate. Anna's eyes were fierce despite the exhaustion. You go with him, you stay safe, and you figure out what the hell Sarnov actually wants so we can end this. Nadia wanted to argue, wanted to assert some independence, but her mother was right, and that was the worst part. She looked at Damien. Fine, but I have conditions too. Name them. I'm not a prisoner. I come and go as I need to. I check on my mother daily, and you tell me everything. No more secrets, no more protecting me from information. If I'm in this, I'm all the way in. Damien studied her for a long moment. Fair enough. And one more thing. Nadia stepped closer, lowered her voice so only he could hear. Whatever you feel or think you feel about me, put it aside. This is business, survival, nothing more. Something flickered in his eyes, hurt maybe, or resignation. Understood, he said quietly. He was lying. She knew he was lying, and worse, she knew she was lying too. They left the hospital at midnight. The rain had finally stopped, but the streets were still slick with it, reflecting neon and headlights in fractured colors. Damien's phone rang constantly. Victor updating positions, Alexandra coordinating security rotations. Someone named Marcus reporting on surveillance of known Sarnov locations. An empire running on midnight efficiency. Nadia sat in the back seat, exhausted but too wired to sleep. She kept seeing the bodies at Vesper, kept hearing gunfire echo in her memory. You've done this before, she said quietly. Damien glanced up from his phone. Done what? Protected people. Moved them around like chess pieces. It's part of the business. What business exactly? She turned to face him. I know you run security firms, shipping companies, but what else? What are you really? He was quiet for a moment, then he pocketed his phone and gave her his full attention. I'm what happens when someone grows up with nothing and decides to take everything. I started running weapons at 16, drugs at 18. By 20, I had my own crew. By 25, I controlled half the Eastern European smuggling routes into North America. The honesty was brutal. Nadia felt it like a physical impact. And now? Now I'm legitimate. Mostly. His smile was sharp. The weapons are gone. The drugs are gone. What's left is security, shipping, financial consulting, legal on paper. But the connections remain. The reputation remains. Which is why I can protect you when the police can't. Because you're still a criminal. Because I understand how criminals think. He leaned back. Viktor Sarnov taught me that. I worked for him when I was young, learned the business, then I broke away and built something of my own. He's hated me ever since. Is that why he's doing this? Revenge? Partially, but mostly it's about the money. 30 million is a lot to lose, and Victor doesn't forgive debts. Nadia processed this. My father worked for Sarnov for 7 years. He had to have known what kind of man he was. Why would he steal from someone like that? Because he was desperate, and desperate people make stupid choices. The words echoed her mother's from earlier. Did you know him well, my father? Damien hesitated. Well enough. Was he? She struggled with the question. Was he a good man? Does it matter? Yes. Damien looked out the window. He loved you and your mother. That much was clear. Everything he did, the stealing, the running, it was to give you a better life. Whether that makes him good or not, I can't say, but his intentions were honest. It wasn't the answer Nadia wanted, but it was probably the most honest one she'd get. The car pulled into the underground garage. They rode the elevator in silence. The penthouse felt different at night. The lights of Manhattan spread out beyond the windows like a galaxy. Beautiful and distant and cold. Guest room is still available, Damien said. Unless you'd prefer... Guest room is fine. He nodded. Started to turn away. Damien. He stopped. Nadia moved closer, close enough to see the exhaustion in his face, the weight of responsibility. Thank you for protecting my mother, for everything tonight. You don't need to thank me. I know. I'm doing it anyway. Something shifted in the air between them. The same charge from the restaurant. Electric. Dangerous. Nadia should step back, should maintain the boundaries she'd just insisted on. Instead, she reached up and touched the cut on his cheek. Small, already scabbing over. You got hurt. It's nothing. You threw yourself over me when the windows broke. Instinct. Bullshit. Her thumb traced the line of the cut. You could have covered yourself. Could have let Victor handle it, but you didn't. Damien's hand came up, wrapped around her wrist, gentle but firm. Don't. Don't what? Don't look at me like that. Like what? Like I'm something other than what I am. And what are you? A killer. A criminal. Someone who's caused more pain than he's prevented. Someone who saved my life tonight, Nadia whispered. Their faces were inches apart. She could feel his breath, could see her reflection in his eyes. Nadia. She kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't thought through, just pure instinct overriding every logical reason not to. For a heartbeat, Damien froze. Then he responded with a hunger that took her breath away. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head back as he deepened the kiss. The other arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him. It wasn't gentle, wasn't romantic. It was desperate, raw. Two people who'd been circling each other finally crashing together with the accumulated force of denial and adrenaline and something neither of them wanted to name. Nadia's hands found his shirt, fisted in the expensive fabric. She wanted closer, wanted to lose herself in this feeling, wanted to forget everything outside these walls. Damien broke the kiss first, rested his forehead against hers, breathing hard. We can't do this, he said roughly. I know. Your mother was right. This complicates everything. I know. And I'm the last person you should trust. I know that too. Nadia pulled back slightly, met his eyes. But I'm tired of being afraid. Tired of running from everything. For once in my life, I want to choose something instead of just surviving. This is a bad choice. Probably. She smiled, small, honest. But it's mine. Damien's thumb traced her bottom lip. If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You understand that? Yes. Your life will never be normal again. It stopped being normal the moment I spilled champagne on your table. He laughed, quiet, almost disbelieving. You're insane. Maybe? Or maybe I'm finally seeing clearly. She stepped back, creating space. But not tonight. Tonight I'm exhausted and traumatized and making decisions on adrenaline. So I'm going to the guest room, and we're going to pretend this didn't happen, and tomorrow we figure out what comes next. Damien watched her for a long moment, then nodded. Tomorrow. Nadia turned toward the guest room, made it 3 steps before his voice stopped her. Nadia. She looked back. I meant what I said earlier. I won't let anything happen to you. I know. Even if it costs me everything. The words hung in the air like a vow. Nadia nodded once and disappeared down the hallway before she could change her mind. In the guest room, she locked the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. She'd just kissed Damien Krylov, the man who let her father die, the man who was probably using her for reasons she didn't understand yet, the man who'd thrown himself between her and bullets without hesitation. Nadia crossed to the window, looking out at the city sprawl. Somewhere out there, Viktor Sarnov was planning his next move. Somewhere, men with guns were watching and waiting for an opportunity. And here she was, standing in a penthouse that cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime, protected by a man who made her feel things she absolutely should not be feeling. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then saw the message preview. Found something interesting in your father's old files. We should talk. Tomorrow. Come alone. Nadia's blood went cold. Maxim, the man from the restaurant, the one who'd escaped. Her finger hovered over the delete button, then moved to reply instead. What did you find? The response came immediately. Proof that Damien Krylov is the reason your father died, and proof that he's lying to you about everything. Meet me at Pier 47. Noon. Come alone or I tell Sarnov where your mother is being treated. Nadia stared at the message until the letters blurred. This was a trap. Obviously a trap. But what if it wasn't? What if Maxim really did have information about her father? What if everything Damien had told her was a lie designed to keep her compliant? She thought about the kiss, about the way he'd looked at her, the protectiveness that felt too genuine to be an act. But men like Damian Krylov were professional liars. That's how they survived. Nadia deleted the message thread, then immediately regretted it. Tomorrow she would tell Damian about the contact, would let him handle it through proper channels. Tomorrow she would be smart and cautious and trust the man who'd saved her life. But tonight she lay in a stranger's guest room, staring at the ceiling, wondering which version of reality was true. And knowing that by noon tomorrow, she'd have to make a choice that would determine everything that came after. Nadia didn't sleep. She lay in the guest room watching dawn bleed across Manhattan's skyline, turning glass towers from black to gold while her mind ran circles around Maxim's message. The deleted words burned in her memory like acid. Proof that Damian Krylov is the reason your father died. She'd already suspected it. Damian had admitted as much, that he'd turned her father away, refused protection. But there was a difference between passive failure and active betrayal. What if Damian hadn't just refused to help? What if he'd been the one who told Sarnov where to find Alexei Valenko? Nadia pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars. This was paranoia, trauma response. Maxim was playing her, trying to isolate her from the one person who could actually keep her alive. She knew that, and yet, at 7 a.m. she heard movement in the penthouse. Damian's voice, low and controlled, speaking to someone on the phone. She caught fragments through the door. Double perimeter. No, I don't care about the cost. Yes, keep the channel open. Running an empire before breakfast. Nadia forced herself out of bed, found the bathroom stocked with expensive toiletries she didn't recognize, showered until the water ran cold, dressed in clothes from the closet that fit too perfectly, like Damian had known her exact measurements, because he probably did. Men like him made it their business to know everything. When she emerged, Damian was in the kitchen, coffee brewing, tablet on the counter displaying what looked like security feeds. He'd changed into fresh clothes, dark slacks, gray shirt rolled to the elbows. The cut on his cheek stood out stark against his skin. Coffee? He didn't look up from the tablet. Yes. He poured without asking how she took it. 2 sugars, splash of cream, exactly right. Nadia accepted the mug and hated how natural it felt. How easy it would be to slip into this routine. Morning coffee with a man who knew her preferences because he'd been watching her for 3 years. Your mother had a good night, Damian said. Vitals stable. No incidents. That's good. Victor wants to move her to the private facility today. Better security, better equipment. She won't go. I know. I already told him no. Damian finally looked at her. His eyes were exhausted. How'd you sleep? Fine. The lie came automatically. He studied her for a moment, then nodded, didn't press. We need to talk about next steps. Next steps? Sarnov's going to escalate. Last night was a probe, testing my defenses. Now that he knows you're under my protection, he'll come harder. Nadia sipped her coffee. So, what do you suggest? We find the money. She almost laughed. I told you. I know what you told me. But your father was too smart to steal $30 million without leaving a roadmap. Somewhere in his belongings, his papers, his effects, there's a clue. We find it. We end this. By giving Sarnov what he wants? By removing his motivation to come after you. Damian set down the tablet. Once he has the money, you're no longer useful. You become a liability, someone who knows too much about his operations. He'll want you dead either way, but at least this gives us leverage to negotiate safe passage. The cold logic of it made sense. Nadia hated that it made sense. My father's belongings were sold off years ago. After he died, we couldn't afford to keep anything that wasn't essential. It's all gone. Not all of it. Damian pulled up a file on the tablet. I've been tracking your family since Moscow. Your mother kept a storage unit in Queens, paid for through an automated trust your father set up before he died. It's still active. Nadia's breath caught. What? Unit 247 at Secure Space on Roosevelt Avenue. Your mother's been paying $200 a month for 12 years. She never told you? The betrayal landed like a physical blow. No. Maybe she didn't know. The payments come from the trust automatically. It's possible your father set it up without telling her. Or maybe her mother had been keeping secrets, just like everyone else in Nadia's life. We should check it out, Damian said. This morning, before Sarnov realizes it exists. Pier 47, noon. Come alone. Nadia's pulse kicked up. I need to see my mother first. Not safe to move around unnecessarily. I don't care. Her voice came out sharper than intended. You said I could check on her daily. I'm doing that now. Damien's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Fine. We go to Mount Sinai, then the storage unit, but we do this my way. Full security detail, no deviations. Understood. He held her gaze for a beat too long, like he could sense something off, like he knew she was lying, but he didn't call her on it. Thus, Mount Sinai was quieter in daylight, less desperate. The oncology ward hummed with the controlled chaos of shift change. Nurses updating charts, doctors making rounds, visitors clutching coffee and false optimism. Anna was awake, reading a paperback that looked older than Nadia. She looked up when they entered, expression carefully neutral. You look terrible, she said to Nadia. Good morning to you too. I'm serious. When's the last time you actually slept? I slept fine. Anna's eyes shifted to Damien. Is she lying? Yes. Traitor, Nadia muttered. Anna set down her book. Both of you. Out in the hallway. Now. Damien started to protest. Anna cut him off with a look that could freeze blood. They stepped into the corridor. Victor was positioned near the nurse's station, eyes tracking every person who passed. 2 more security personnel flanked the elevator banks. Anna's voice carried through the partially open door. Close it. Nadia pulled the door shut, crossed her arms. What's this about? You tell me. You've got that look. What look? The one you had when you were 16 and decided to steal my car to drive to that boy's house in Connecticut. The one that says you're about to do something incredibly stupid. Nadia's laugh was bitter. I don't know what you're talking about. Nadia Katerina Valenko. Anna's use of her full name was a warning shot. I am dying. I don't have time for your bullshit. What's going on? The truth tried to claw its way out. Nadia swallowed it back. Nothing. I'm just processing everything. It's a lot. Anna studied her daughter's face with the intensity of someone who'd spent 27 years learning to read her. You don't trust him. Not a question. Nadia glanced toward where Damien stood with Victor, reviewing something on a phone screen. Should I? I don't know. That's what worries me. Anna leaned back against her pillows. He's in love with you. That part's obvious. But love doesn't equal trustworthy, especially not with men like him. He's not in love with me. He barely knows me. He's known you for 3 years, Dochka, been watching you, studying you. That's not casual interest, that's obsession. Anna's voice dropped. And obsessed men are dangerous, even when they think they're being protective. The words echoed too close to Nadia's own fears. I can handle myself. Can you? Anna's eyes were fierce. Because from where I'm sitting, you're in way over your head, and the only thing keeping you alive is a man who might be using you for something you don't understand yet. What else am I supposed to do? Run? Hide? We tried that for 12 years and look where it got us. We're still alive. Barely. You're dying, Mama. And I'm working 2 jobs just to afford the treatment that's not even working anymore. At least this way. This way what? You get to play house with a gangster? Pretend that his money and his protection mean something more than they do? The accusation stung because it was too close to truth. Nadia moved to the window, staring out at the city. Did Papa leave anything in storage? Something you didn't tell me about? The silence stretched too long. Mama, there's a unit in Queens. Anna's voice was quiet. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you going near it. Didn't want you digging into your father's past. But you kept paying for it. The trust pays for it. I don't even see the charges. I knew it was there. Knew that if you ever needed it, it would be waiting. Nadia turned around. What's in it? I don't know. Your father set it up the week before he died, said it was insurance, that if anything happened to him, I should keep the unit active but never go there myself, never tell anyone about it. Why? Because he was terrified, Nadia. Because he knew what he'd done and he knew they'd come for him and he wanted to leave us something. Some way to survive after he was gone. The pain in Anna's voice was raw, real. Nadia crossed back to the bed, took her mother's hand. We're going there today. Damien thinks whatever Papa left might help end this. Or it might make everything worse. It's the only lead we have. Anna squeezed her daughter's fingers. Be careful. Your father was brilliant, but he was also desperate. And desperate people make terrible choices. Whatever's in that unit, it might not be what you want to find. I'll be careful. Promise me. Promise me you won't do anything stupid. Nadia thought about Maxim's message, about Pier 47 at noon, about the choice she'd already half made in the dark hours of the morning. I promise, she lied. Kids. The storage facility squatted in an industrial section of Queens like a concrete bunker. Chain link fence. Security cameras. The kind of place where people kept things they wanted forgotten. Damien's security team swept the perimeter twice before allowing them to approach. Victor went in first, clearing the corridors, while Nadia and Damien waited in the SUV. You're quiet, Damien said. Just thinking. About how my whole life has been built on secrets. Papa's secrets. Yours. Even Mama's. She turned to look at him. Makes me wonder what else I don't know. Fair question. So tell me something true. Something you haven't told anyone else. Damien was quiet for a moment. Like what? Why were you at Velvet Sovereign that night, the night I spilled the champagne? You don't strike me as someone who eats alone at exclusive clubs. His smile was faint. I was meeting someone, business associate who wanted to discuss a shipping contract. Bullshit. Excuse me? You're lying, I can tell. Nadia leaned closer. What were you really doing there? Damien's jaw worked. Then he sighed. I was there because you were there. The admission hit like cold water. What? I knew you worked there. Had known for 8 months. I'd been trying to figure out how to approach you without scaring you off. Then, that night, you came to my table, spilled champagne, spoke Russian, and I thought maybe it was fate giving me an opening. Nadia's stomach twisted. You planned this. All of it. No. Not all of it. Sarnov's involvement is real. The threat is real. But yes, I was looking for a way into your life. I needed... He stopped, started again. Your father begged me for help, and I turned him away. I've spent 12 years trying to live with that choice. When I found out you were in New York, working at a place I could access, I saw it as a second chance. A second chance to what? To make things right. To protect you the way I should have protected him. Or to use me as bait to draw out Sarnov. The words hung between them like a knife. Damien's expression hardened. Is that what you think? I don't know what to think anymore. Then let me make it simple. He turned to face her fully. Everything I've done, everything I'm doing is about keeping you alive. Not because you're useful, not because you're bait, because you matter, to me, personally. Why? You don't know me. I know you better than you think. I know you work yourself to exhaustion because you can't stand feeling helpless. I know you cry in the shower because you don't want your mother to see. I know you haven't dated anyone in 3 years because you're too scared to let people close. I know... Stop. Nadia's voice shook. Stop proving how much you've been stalking me. It's not stalking. It's... What? Protection? Care? It's creepy, Damien. It's obsessive and controlling and exactly the kind of thing that should make me run screaming. So why haven't you? The question landed like a challenge. Why hadn't she run? Why had she kissed him last night? Why did part of her want to believe everything he was saying? Because I'm an idiot, she said finally. Because I'm scared and alone and you're offering me something that looks like safety, even if it's probably a trap. It's not a trap. Then what is it? Before Damien could answer, Victor knocked on the window. Clear, we can go in. Damien held Nadia's gaze for another beat, then nodded and opened the door. They walked through fluorescent corridors past identical orange doors. Unit 247 was on the second floor, tucked in a corner away from the main thoroughfare. Victor produced a key that Damien had somehow acquired. The lock clicked open. Inside was darkness and dust and the smell of old cardboard. Damien found the light switch. Bare bulb flickered to life, illuminating a space maybe 10 by 10 feet. Boxes stacked against the walls, a filing cabinet in the corner, a trunk that looked military surplus. Nadia stepped inside, heart hammering. This was it, her father's final insurance policy. Whatever truth he'd left behind lived in this concrete box. She opened the first box. Financial documents. Spreadsheets filled with numbers that meant nothing to her. Bank statements from accounts she didn't recognize. The second box held photographs, her parents, younger, smiling on some beach Nadia didn't remember. Her father holding infant Nadia, face split with joy. She had to stop looking at those. The third box was filled with what looked like coded ledgers, strings of numbers and abbreviated names, the kind of records you kept when you couldn't afford to be obvious. "This is going to take hours to sort through," Victor said. Damien was already pulling out his phone. "I'll get Marcus and a forensic accountant. Wait." Nadia had opened the trunk. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a chess set, handcrafted, beautiful. Each piece carved from dark and light wood with intricate detail. The board itself was inlaid, squares alternating black and white in perfect precision. She lifted it out carefully. Something rattled. "What is it?" Damien moved closer. Nadia examined the board. There, barely visible, a seam along one edge. She worked her fingernail into the gap. The board opened like a book. Inside was a hollow space, and sitting in that space was a single black king piece and a folded piece of paper. Nadia's hands trembled as she unfolded the paper, her father's handwriting, still familiar after 12 years. "Moja dorogaya doć," it began. "My dear daughter." She read it aloud, translating as she went. "If you're reading this, I'm dead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the life you've had to live. Sorry for the choices that brought us here. But I need you to know everything I did was to give you a chance. The money is real. $30 million in accounts I scattered across 3 continents. The coordinates are encoded in the chessboard. Each piece represents a digit. Black king is the key. Inside you'll find..." Nadia stopped, turned the black king over in her palm, the bottom unscrewed. Inside was a small USB drive. "Jesus," Victor breathed. Damien reached for it. "We need to..." Nadia pulled it back. "No, this is mine. My father left it for me." "Nadia, this could have information Sarnoff would kill for. We need to secure it." I said no. She closed her fist around the drive. "You want to help? Fine. But this stays with me." Damien's expression darkened. "That's not smart." "I don't care. If Sarnoff finds out you have that, then I guess we better make sure he doesn't find out." She met his eyes. "You said you'd protect me. You said I mattered. So trust me the way you want me to trust you." The standoff lasted 3 heartbeats. Then Damien nodded slowly. "Fine. But we look at it together, somewhere secure." "Agreed." Victor cleared his throat. "We should move. Been here too long already." They packed what they could carry. Nadia kept the chess set and the USB drive. Damien took the boxes of documents. Victor swept the perimeter one more time. As they loaded into the SUV, Nadia checked her phone. 11:15, 45 minutes until the meeting at Pier 47. She could still make it if she moved fast. The drive back to Manhattan took 20 minutes. Damien spent most of it on the phone, coordinating analysis of the documents they'd recovered. Victor drove in silence, eyes checking mirrors constantly. Nadia stared out the window, mind racing. This was insane. Meeting Maxime was suicide. Damien would never allow it. Victor would physically restrain her if he knew. But the message kept looping in her head. Proof that Damien Krylov is the reason your father died. What if it was true? What if this whole time he'd been manipulating her? Using guilt and protection as cover for something darker? She needed to know, even if it killed her. The penthouse elevator doors opened. Damien headed straight for his office, already calling his forensic accountant. Victor peeled off to coordinate with the security team. Nadia waited until they were both occupied. Then she walked to the guest room, grabbed her jacket, and slipped out through the service exit she'd noticed during her tour yesterday. The stairwell was concrete and echo, and her own ragged breathing. She made it to street level before her phone buzzed. Damien. She ignored it, flagged a cab, gave the driver the address for Pier 47. Her phone kept buzzing, calls, texts. She turned it to silent. Manhattan blurred past in streaks of gray and glass. The cab smelled like old coffee and fake pine. The driver didn't ask questions. They hit traffic near the waterfront. Nadia checked the time, 11:55. I'll walk from here. She threw cash at the driver and climbed out. The pier stretched ahead like a concrete finger pointing into the Hudson. Industrial. Abandoned. The kind of place where bodies washed up and nobody asked questions. Nadia's survival instinct screamed, "Run." She kept walking. The wind off the water cut through her jacket. Seagulls wheeled overhead, crying warnings. Somewhere, a buoy clanged against its mooring. At the end of the pier, a figure waited. Maxime. He stood with his back to the water, hands in his coat pockets. Casual. Like this was a business meeting instead of potential execution. Miss Valenko. His accent made her name sound like a threat. I wasn't sure you'd come. Nadia stopped 20 feet away. You said you had proof, and you came alone. Brave. Or stupid. I haven't decided which. Show me what you have or I'm leaving. Maxime smiled. Pulled a phone from his pocket, tapped the screen, turned it to face her. Nadia had to step closer to see. Security footage, grainy, time-stamped 12 years ago, a warehouse interior, her father tied to a chair. Blood on his face. Two men standing over him. One of them was young, barely recognizable. But the bone structure was the same, the cold eyes, Damien Krylov. No. The word came out strangled. Yes. Maxime's voice was almost gentle. Your boyfriend was there the night your father died. Not just there, participating. Watch. He pressed play. On the screen, young Damien circled her father like a predator, speaking in Russian. Nadia couldn't hear the audio, but she could read lips well enough. Where is the money, Alexei? Her father shaking his head, pleading. Damien nodding to someone off screen, her father screaming. Nadia's knees buckled. She hit the concrete hard enough to feel it through her jeans. This is a lie. You edited this. No edits. Original footage from the warehouse security system. Victor's people kept it as insurance. Maxime crouched beside her. Your father begged Damien for protection, and Damien delivered him to Victor personally, helped with the interrogation, was there when they put the bullet in his head. No. Yes. And then, beautiful irony, Damien killed Victor's men afterwards, made it look like he was avenging your father's death, earned himself a reputation as a man of honor, built his empire on that lie. Nadia couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The world had narrowed to the phone screen and the image of Damien standing over her father's broken body. Why? The word barely made it past her lips. Because Damien Krylov is a survivor. He sided with Victor long enough to learn where the money was hidden. Then he killed everyone who knew he'd been involved and rewrote history, made himself the hero who avenged Alexei Volenko instead of the monster who tortured him. The money, Papa said it was encoded. Damien knows that. He's been looking for the key for 12 years. And then you appeared, with access to your father's belongings, with the trust your father set up, with everything Damien needed to finally claim what he's been hunting. The USB drive burned in Nadia's pocket. He's been using you from the start, Maxime continued. The protection, the romance, all of it designed to make you trust him enough to lead him to the money. Then why haven't you killed me already? Nadia forced herself to look at him. If this is all true, if I have what Sarnov wants, why am I still alive? Maxime's smile widened. Because you're more useful alive. For now. The words landed like a death sentence. You see, Miss Valenko, I don't work for Viktor Sarnov anymore. I work for myself, and I'm offering you a deal. Give me the USB drive, give me access to the accounts, and I'll make sure both you and your mother disappear somewhere Damien will never find you. Refuse? He gestured to the water. Well, the Hudson is very deep. Nadia's hand moved to her pocket, felt the small weight of the drive, her father's final gift. Damien's ultimate goal, her only leverage. How do I know you won't kill me anyway? You don't. But you know for certain what Damien will do once he has what he wants. He's already killed your father, killed dozens of others who got in his way. What makes you think you'll be different? The phone in Nadia's pocket vibrated. Again. Damien calling, probably losing his mind trying to find her, probably terrified that his carefully constructed plan was falling apart, or maybe actually worried about her safety. She couldn't tell anymore which version was real. I need time, she said. You have 30 seconds. That's not 29. Nadia's mind raced. Options, outcomes, all of them ending badly. Give Maxime the drive and he'd probably kill her anyway. Keep it, and Damien would eventually take it by force. Run, and both men would hunt her down. No good choices, just different flavors of death. 15 seconds, Miss Valenko. Behind Maxime, 3 more figures emerged from a shipping container. Armed, professional. This had always been a trap. Even if she gave him what he wanted, she was never walking off this pier alive. 10. Nadia's hand closed around the USB drive, pulled it from her pocket. Maxime's eyes lit with triumph. Good choice. Yeah. Nadia's other hand found the railing. It really is. She vaulted over the edge. For one impossible moment, she hung in air, gravity gathering her in its fist. Then she hit the water, and the cold was a knife through her chest, stealing breath and thought and everything except the primal need to not drown. The Hudson in May was 40 degrees and black as oil. Nadia kicked hard, fighting the weight of her clothes. Her lungs screamed, her muscles locked from cold shock. Above her, shouting, then gunfire, bullets hitting water with little pfft sounds that would have been comical if they weren't trying to kill her. She stayed under as long as she could, swam parallel to the pier, surfaced gasping behind a barnacle-crusted piling. More gunfire. But they were shooting blind now, couldn't see her in the shadow of the pier. Nadia grabbed the piling, lungs heaving. Every cell in her body screamed hypothermia warning. She had maybe 5 minutes before the cold shut down her muscles completely. Had to move, had to... A hand grabbed her wrist. Nadia screamed, thrashed. The hand held firm, pulling her up onto a maintenance ladder she hadn't known existed. She looked up into Victor's grim face. "Climb!" he snapped. "Now!" She climbed, fingers numb, muscles shaking. Victor right behind her, gun drawn, watching the pier above. They emerged onto a maintenance platform 20 yards from where Maxime and his men were still searching the water. Victor pulled her into shadows, pressed a finger to his lips. They moved in silence, away from the pier. Through a maze of shipping containers and rusted machinery. Nadia's teeth chattered so hard she thought they'd crack. A black SUV waited at the perimeter. Victor shoved her inside. Damien was in the back seat. His face was white, jaw clenched so tight Nadia could see muscle jumping. When he saw her, soaked, shaking, barely conscious, something raw crossed his expression. Then he wrapped her in his jacket and pulled her against his chest while Victor peeled out, tires screaming. "You stupid, reckless, suicidal..." Damien's voice shook. "What the hell were you thinking? You killed him." Nadia's words slurred from cold. "You killed my father. I saw the footage." Damien went absolutely still. "What footage?" "Warehouse. 12 years ago. You were there, helping Victor, torturing him." "Nadia, don't lie to me." She tried to pull away, but her muscles wouldn't cooperate. "I saw you standing over him while... That footage is out of context. There's no context that makes it okay. You were there when he died." "Yes, I was." Damien's voice went flat. "Dead. I was there because I changed my mind, realized I'd made a mistake sending your father away, went to Victor's warehouse to try to negotiate his release. Arrived too late. He was already..." He stopped, started again. "I held his hand while he died, Nadia. Promised him I'd find you and your mother, keep you safe. And then I killed every man in that building who'd laid a finger on him." The words hung in the space between them. "Maxime showed you edited footage," Damien continued. "Took the parts where I was questioning your father, trying to find out what he told Victor, and cut out everything else. Made it look like I was working with them instead of against them. How do I know you're not lying now?" "You don't." His arms tightened around her. "But you jumped into the Hudson rather than trust either of us. So maybe you already know the truth and you're just too scared to admit it." Nadia's brain felt like sludge. Cold and shock and emotional whiplash all crashing together. She'd seen the footage, seen Damien standing over her father. But she'd also felt him throw his body over hers when the shooting started at Vesper, felt the desperation in his kiss, heard the raw honesty when he talked about regret. People were complicated. Truth was complicated. And right now she was too cold and exhausted to figure out which version was real. "The USB drive," she mumbled against his chest. "I still have it." "I know." "You don't want it?" "Of course I want it, but not like this." Not because you're hypothermic and traumatized and can't think straight. Damien's lips pressed against her hair. We'll look at it together. When you're ready. When you trust me enough to believe I'm not going to use it against you. What if I never trust you? Then I guess I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. The SUV pulled into the underground garage. Victor was already on the phone, summoning medical personnel. Nadia's shivers had progressed to full-body shaking. Damien carried her to the elevator. She didn't protest. Couldn't. Her body had stopped taking orders from her brain. In the penthouse, he stripped her out of wet clothes with clinical efficiency, wrapped her in heated blankets, made her drink something hot that tasted like honey and burned going down. A doctor appeared, checked her vitals, administered something that made the shaking finally stop. When Nadia finally surfaced from the fog, it was dark outside and Damien sat in a chair beside the bed, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. What time is it? Her voice was gravel. 9 p.m. You've been asleep for 6 hours. My mother is fine. I called her, told her you were safe, didn't tell her about the pier. His jaw worked. That's your story to tell if you want to. Nadia pushed herself upright. Her body ached like she'd been beaten. Maxim's still out there. Not for long. Victor's tracking him. We'll have a location by morning. And then what? You kill him? Yes. The simplicity of it was almost refreshing. No hesitation, no moral gymnastics, just yes. The footage he showed me, Nadia said quietly. Real or fake? Damien's hands clenched on the chair arms. Real footage, edited to hell. Maxim's good at that, taking truth and twisting it until it looks like something else. So you were there. I was there at the end. Tried to stop it. Failed. He met her eyes. I've lied to you about a lot of things, Nadia. But not about that. Not about regretting your father's death every day since. She wanted to believe him. Part of her did believe him. But belief required trust, and trust required time. And time was the one thing they didn't have. The USB drive, she said. We should look at it. Not tonight. Damien, tonight you almost died. Tonight you jumped into the Hudson because you thought I was going to kill you. We're not making critical decisions in that emotional state. When then? Tomorrow, after you've slept, eaten, had time to think clearly. He stood. Rest. I'll be right outside if you need anything. He made it to the door before she stopped him. Damien. He turned. Did you love him? My father? The question seemed to surprise him. No, I barely knew him. Then why does his death haunt you so much? Damien was quiet for a long moment. Because I saw myself in him. Another man trying to protect his family, trying to outrun his mistakes. And I watched what happens when men like me refuse to help men like him. I watched the consequences, and I decided I never wanted to be that person again. The person who refuses? The person who values self-preservation over doing what's right? He left before she could respond. Nadia lay in the dark, listening to the city hum beyond bulletproof glass. The USB drive sat on the nightstand where she'd left it. Small, innocuous. The key to $30 million. The key to ending this nightmare. Or the key to starting a war that would consume everyone she cared about. Her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten Victor had returned it after pulling her from the water. Unknown number. Again. She almost deleted it, then opened it anyway. You have something that belongs to me, and I have something that belongs to you. Your mother was moved from Mount Sinai an hour ago. Somewhere you'll never find her, unless you bring me the drive. Pier 47, midnight tomorrow. This time, don't jump. Victor Sarnoff. Below the message was a photo. Her mother, unconscious. Strapped to a gurney in what looked like the back of a medical transport van. Nadia's scream brought Damien crashing through the door, gun already drawn. She couldn't speak, just held up the phone with shaking hands. Damien's face went absolutely white, then red, then cold as stone. Get Victor, he said quietly. Get everyone. Lock down this building and find out who the hell breached Mount Sinai without us knowing. He took the phone from Nadia's numb fingers, studied the photo with professional detachment. We'll get her back, he said. How? Nadia's voice broke. He wants the drive. If I give it to him, He'll kill you both anyway. We don't negotiate with Viktor Sarnov. We destroy him. She's my mother. She's dying and now she's... Nadia couldn't finish. Damien pulled her against his chest. I will get her back. I promise you. Whatever it takes. Whatever it costs. Your promises don't mean anything, Nadia sobbed into his shirt. Then let me prove they do. He pulled back, forcing her to meet his eyes. Give me 12 hours. Let me find her. If I fail, if we can't locate her by noon tomorrow, we do it your way. You take the drive to Pier 47, and we hope Sarnov honors his word. And if he doesn't, then we both die trying to save her. The words should have terrified Nadia. Instead, they felt almost like relief. Because for the first time since this whole nightmare started, someone was promising to stand with her instead of for her. Equal partners in potential suicide. 12 hours, she said. 12 hours. Damien kissed her forehead. Then he was gone, shouting orders to Viktor, mobilizing whatever army he commanded. Nadia sat alone in the guest room holding a USB drive that had cost her father his life and might cost her mother hers. Outside the windows, Manhattan glittered like broken glass. And somewhere in that vast darkness, Anna Valenko lay unconscious and helpless in the hands of a man who'd spent 12 years waiting for exactly this moment. The clock on the nightstand glowed 9:47 p.m. 12 hours until noon. 12 hours to find her mother, or 12 hours until Nadia walked into a trap that would kill them all. She looked at the USB drive, then at her phone, then made a decision that would either save everything or destroy it. She plugged the drive into her laptop and opened the files. It was time to see what her father had died protecting. And time to figure out if trusting Damien Krylov was the smartest decision she'd ever made, or the last mistake she'd ever get to regret. The USB drive contained a nightmare dressed in spreadsheets. Nadia stared at the laptop screen while her father's ghost whispered from beyond the grave in columns of numbers and coded transactions. Account numbers, routing codes, passwords encrypted in patterns only someone who knew him would recognize, her birthday, her mother's maiden name, the address of their apartment in Moscow before everything went to hell, $30 million scattered across banks in Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, and Singapore. Each account carefully hidden, each one requiring a specific sequence to access, and underneath it all, a document titled Insurance. Nadia opened it with shaking hands. Names, dates, transactions. A complete record of Viktor Sarnov's criminal empire spanning 2 decades. Drug routes, money laundering operations, politicians on payroll, judges who took bribes, federal agents who looked the other way. Her father hadn't just stolen money, he'd stolen leverage. The kind of information that could dismantle Sarnov's entire organization if it reached the right people. The kind of information men killed for, died protecting. Jesus Christ, Papa, Nadia breathed. What did you do? The guest room door opened without warning. Damien stood in the doorway, phone pressed to his ear, eyes scanning until they landed on her laptop. He went absolutely still. I'll call you back. He ended the call, crossed the room in 3 strides. You opened it. I had to know. I said we'd do it together. My mother is missing. I don't have time for together. Nadia turned the laptop to face him. Look. Damien scanned the screen. His expression shifted from anger to shock to something darker. This is everything. Names, operations. Enough to put Sarnov in prison for the rest of his life. Enough to destroy everyone connected to him. She met his eyes. Including you? The question hung between them like a blade. Damien's jaw worked. No. I severed ties with Sarnov 8 years ago. Made sure there was nothing connecting me to his operations. But others... He scrolled through the document. Half the Eastern Seaboard's organized crime infrastructure is in here. If this got out, it would start a war. It would start an apocalypse. Damien closed the laptop. This is why your father died. Not the money. This. He had enough ammunition to bring down an empire and Sarnov knew it. So what do we do with it? We use it. Damien pulled out his phone, started typing. Viktor just gave us the location for the exchange, Pier 47, midnight tomorrow. He thinks we'll show up with the drive and try to negotiate. Won't we? No. We'll show up with leverage. His eyes glinted like steel. How do you feel about blackmail? Before Nadia could answer, Victor burst through the door. His face was grim. "We have a problem." "Another one?" Damien didn't look up from his phone. Mount Sinai's security footage was scrubbed. Whoever took Anna Valenko knew exactly where our cameras were positioned, avoided them all. This was professional, inside knowledge. The implications settled over the room like ice. "You're saying we have a leak," Damien said quietly. "I'm saying someone on our team gave Sarnov the access he needed." Victor's expression was carved stone. "I've locked down communications. No one goes in or out until we identify the source. But boss, it had to be someone high level, someone with full clearance." Damien's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, went pale. "Alexandra's missing," Victor swore in Russian. "Since when?" "She didn't check in at her scheduled time. GPS on her phone shows she's at the waterfront. Near..." He stopped. "Near Pier 47. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. "She's the leak," Nadia said. "We don't know that," Victor started. "She drove us from Vesper after the shooting. She knew every move we made, every location." Nadia stood, adrenaline cutting through exhaustion. She's been feeding Sarnov information from the inside. Damien was already moving. "Get the team, full tactical loadout. If Alexandra's been compromised, we assume everything she knows is compromised. New protocols, new routes, and someone get me eyes on that pier right now." Victor disappeared. Damien turned back to Nadia. "You're staying here." "Like hell." "Nadia, that's my mother out there. I'm not sitting in this penthouse while you go play hero. This isn't about playing hero. This is about keeping you alive long enough to..." "To what? Use me as bait? Keep me as insurance? I'm done being protected, Damien. I'm done being a piece on someone else's board." She grabbed the USB drive. "I have what Sarnov wants, which means I'm the only leverage we have. So either I come with you or I go alone." The standoff lasted 3 seconds. Then Damien nodded curtly. "Fine. But you follow orders, no improvising, no heroics. You do exactly what I say when I say it." "Agreed." "And if things go sideways, if it looks like we're going to lose, you run. You take that drive and you disappear and you don't look back." "I'm not leaving my mother." "You might have to." His voice gentled fractionally. "Your father spent 12 years protecting that information, died protecting it. Don't let his sacrifice be for nothing." The weight of it pressed against Nadia's chest. Her father's ghost. Her mother's life. $30 million and enough secrets to topple an empire. All of it balanced on the next 12 hours. "What's the plan?" she asked. Damien pulled up a map on his phone. "Sarnov wants the drive. We give him part of it, enough to prove it's real. But we hold back the insurance file. Tell him if anything happens to you or your mother, copies get sent to the FBI, Interpol, every federal prosecutor in the tri-state area. He'll never believe we'd actually do it." "He will if we send him a preview first." Damien's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Victor's already drafting the email. Just enough information to prove we have everything. Just enough to make him understand that killing you kills him too." Nadia processed this. "That's assuming he cares about exposure more than revenge. Sarnov survived this long because he's careful, calculating. He'll weigh the risk." Damien met her eyes. "But we need to be ready for the possibility that he doesn't care, that he'd rather burn his empire down than let your father's theft go unpunished." Comforting. "I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to keep you alive." The distinction felt important somehow. Victor returned with 4 operatives Nadia didn't recognize. Hard-eyed professionals carrying enough firepower to siege a small country. They moved with military precision, checking weapons and communication equipment. "Transport's ready," Victor said. "Snipers are positioning on buildings overlooking the pier. Thermal imaging shows 7 heat signatures in the target zone. Could be Alexandra and hostages. Could be Sarnov's team." "Or both," Damien said. He turned to Nadia. "Last chance to stay here," she answered by walking toward the elevator. Yes. The drive to the waterfront took 15 minutes. Nadia sat between Damien and Victor in the armored SUV, watching Manhattan blur past while her pulse hammered against her ribs. This was insane. This was suicide. But what choice did she have? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then recognized the message preview. "Mom's awake. Asking for you. Better hurry." Alexandra, confirming she had Anna, confirming the trap. Nadia showed Damien the message. His expression went cold. She's baiting you, trying to make you emotional, reckless. It's working. I know. His hand found hers, squeezed once. But you're stronger than that, stronger than they think. The SUV pulled into a warehouse district 6 blocks from Pier 47. Damien's team deployed with military efficiency. 2 snipers disappeared onto rooftops. 3 more fanned out to establish a perimeter. Victor handed Nadia a vest. Put this on. I don't know how... Velcro. He helped her into it. The weight was surprising. Restrictive, but also oddly reassuring. It'll stop most handgun rounds. Maybe a rifle shot if you're lucky, but don't test it. Damien was checking his own weapon. A matte black handgun that looked too comfortable in his grip. He caught her staring. You know how to shoot? No. Good. Don't start now. He holstered the weapon. If shooting starts, you get behind me. You stay behind me. Understand? Nadia nodded. Her mouth was too dry for words. They moved through shadows toward the pier. The Hudson stretched black and endless beyond the concrete. Wind carried the smell of oil and rot and old violence. Victor's voice crackled through the earpiece Damien wore. Thermal confirms 9 signatures now. 3 vehicles. Looks like Sarnov brought backup. How many of ours are in position? Damien asked. All of them. We have the advantage on high ground, but they control the exit points. This goes sideways, extraction gets complicated. Noted. They reached the edge of the pier. Sodium lights cast everything in sickly orange. Shipping containers formed a maze of steel and shadow. At the far end near the water, figures waited. Nadia's breath caught. Her mother sat in a wheelchair, slumped but conscious. Alexandra stood behind her, one hand on Anna's shoulder. Casual, proprietary. And surrounding them, 6 men with automatic weapons. No sign of Sarnov himself. Of course, he wouldn't expose himself personally. Too careful for that. Damien's hand pressed against Nadia's back. Steady, we walk out together, nice and slow. Let them see we're not armed. You're armed. They can't see it. He stepped forward into the light. Nadia followed. Each step felt like walking toward her own execution. They stopped 30 feet from Alexandra, close enough to see her mother's face. Anna's eyes were unfocused. Drugged, probably, but alive. Damien Krylov. Alexandra's voice carried across the space between them. You look disappointed. I trusted you, Damien said flatly. I know, that was your mistake, she smiled. Nothing personal. But Sarnov's offer was better than yours. Better money. Better protection. And he promised me something you never could. What's that? Freedom. Real freedom. Not the kind where I'm still answering to someone else's empire. Alexandra's hand tightened on Anna's shoulder. You have the drive? We have it. Nadia stepped forward. Let my mother go and you can have it. That's not how this works, sweetie. You give us the drive. We verify it has what we need. Then maybe you both walk out of here. We're not idiots, Damien said. The moment we hand it over, you kill us. Probably, but you're here anyway, which means you don't have better options. Alexandra's smile widened. Victor sends his regards, by the way. Says your father screamed beautifully before he died. Nadia's vision went red. She started forward. Damien's arm shot out, stopping her. Don't. That's what she wants. You emotional. Out of control. He was right. Nadia knew he was right. Didn't make the rage any less consuming. The drive, Alexandra repeated. Now. Or I put a bullet in Mommy's knee and we start this conversation again. Nadia's hand moved to her pocket. Felt the small weight of the USB drive. $30 million. Her father's legacy. The key to ending this nightmare or starting a new one. Wait. Damien's voice cut through the tension. Before we do this, you should know we sent something to the FBI an hour ago. Alexandra's expression flickered. Bullshit. Check your phone, Victor's email, the one you've been using to communicate with Sarnov's people. Alexandra pulled out her phone with her free hand. Swiped. Her face went pale. That's a sample, Damien continued. 5% of what's on the drive. Names, dates, enough to start an investigation. The rest gets released automatically if anything happens to Nadia or her mother. Insurance, just like her father intended. You're bluffing. Am I? Damien smiled. Cold. Reptilian. Test me. Kill them and find out how fast your entire operation collapses. How many of Sarnov's associates get arrested? How many banks freeze his accounts? How many governments start asking questions? The silence stretched like piano wire. Then Anna spoke. Her voice was weak but clear. Dochka, don't give them anything. Mama, your father died protecting this. Don't let them use me against you. Alexandra's hand moved to her waistband, pulled a pistol, pressed it against Anna's temple. Touching, really, but we're done negotiating. The drive, 10 seconds, or I paint the pier with her brains. Nadia's world narrowed to the gun against her mother's head, to Anna's eyes meeting hers across 30 feet of concrete, to the choice that would define everything that came after. Give it to them, Anna said quietly. Let them have the money. Let them have everything. Just survive, Nadia, please. I can't. Tears burned Nadia's throat. I can't lose you too. You already lost me. The cancer's winning. You know that. I know that. Anna's smile was heartbreaking. But you still have a chance. Take it. 5 seconds, Alexandra said. Nadia pulled the USB drive from her pocket, held it up, then threw it as hard as she could into the Hudson. The small splash was deafening in the sudden silence. Alexandra stared. You stupid bitch. Do you have any idea what you just... That was a copy, Damien said calmly. We have 3 more, encrypted, hidden in locations you'll never find. But here's the new deal. You let them go, right now, and we'll give you one of the copies. Enough to access the money. Enough to give Sarnoff what he wants. And the insurance file? Stays with us. Permanent leverage, permanent peace. You try to come after Nadia or Anna again, ever, and everything goes public. We all lose. Alexandra's jaw worked. I need to make a call. Make it. She pulled out her phone, stepped away, spoke in rapid Russian that Nadia couldn't quite catch. Damien leaned close. When I say run, you run. Don't look back. Don't hesitate. Victor has an extraction team 2 blocks north. They'll get you out. What about you? I'll be right behind you. You're lying. His smile was sad. Yeah, I am. Before Nadia could respond, Alexandra returned. Sarnov accepts. With conditions. Name them. You bring him the drive, personally, tonight, and you come alone. Not happening, Victor's voice crackled through the earpiece. Damien ignored him. Where? The Dmitri Club. 2 a.m. Just you and Nadia. Absolutely not, Nadia started. Agreed, Damien said. We get Anna first. Alexandra considered this, then nodded to one of her men. He wheeled Anna forward, slowly, carefully. Nadia started toward her mother. Damien's hand caught her arm. Not yet. Not until she's clear of their range. The wheelchair reached the halfway point, then the 3/4 mark. Nadia could see her mother's face clearly now, the exhaustion, the fear, the fierce pride. 10 feet, 5. Nadia broke free from Damien's grip and ran. She reached her mother the same moment the shooting started. Muzzle flash lit up the pier like lightning. Bullets screamed past. Someone was shouting orders. The wheelchair tipped as Nadia grabbed her mother, both of them hitting the concrete hard. Damien returned fire. Controlled bursts. Professional. Victor and the team appeared from the shadows, rifles barking. Alexandra dove behind a shipping container. The world became noise and cordite, and Nadia's mother gasping in her arms. Move! Damien hauled them both up, half carried, half dragged them toward cover. They made it behind a concrete piling as bullets chewed chunks from the edge. Anna was crying, or laughing. Nadia couldn't tell. I got you, Mama. I got you. You crazy girl. You beautiful crazy girl. Damien was on his phone. Victor, we need extraction now. South side. Bring the van to the access road, and... He stopped. Looked up. Shit. Headlights blazed from the pier entrance. A convoy of vehicles. 6, maybe 7. Reinforcements. That's not ours, Victor said through the earpiece. I know. The vehicles disgorged what looked like a small army, 20 men, maybe more, all armed. And walking at the center of them, flanked by bodyguards, was a man who could only be Viktor Sarnov, older than Nadia expected. 70s probably. But he moved with the confidence of someone who'd survived decades of violence through cunning and cruelty. The shooting stopped. Sarnov's voice carried across the pier, heavily accented, almost grandfatherly. "Damian Krylov, it's been too long." "Not long enough, Victor. Still bitter about the old days? I thought we'd moved past that." Sarnov stepped into the light. His smile was a predator's smile. "You have something that belongs to me, and I have something you want. Your operative, Alexandra. She's been quite helpful." Damian's expression went cold. "You played us." "Of course I played you. Did you think you were the only one capable of strategy?" Sarnov gestured lazily. "Alexandra was mine from the beginning, feeding you information, leading you exactly where I wanted, and now, here we are. End of the line." Nadia held her mother tighter. They were surrounded, outgunned, trapped between Sarnov's forces and the Hudson. No way out, no way forward, just the slow tick of seconds before the execution. "The drive," Sarnov said. "Give it to me and I'll make this quick. Refuse and I'll make it last days. Your choice." Damian looked at Nadia, then at Anna, then back at Sarnov. "The drive's encrypted," he said. "Needs a password to access. Kill us and you'll never get it open." Passwords can be broken. Not this one. Alexei Valenko was paranoid. The encryption is military grade. Without the password, the drive self-destructs after 3 failed attempts. Damian pulled out his phone. "But I'll give you the password, right now, in exchange for safe passage." Sarnov laughed. "You're in no position to negotiate. Neither are you. Because if I don't enter a code in the next 5 minutes, copies of that insurance file get sent to every law enforcement agency in the Western Hemisphere. Your empire ends, tonight." The smile faded from Sarnov's face. "You're bluffing. Try me." The standoff stretched. 30 seconds. 60. Then Sarnov nodded. "Fine. The password, then you leave, alive, all 3 of you." "Your word, my word." Sarnov's expression was carved stone. "Though I wonder, will you actually keep yours? Will you really hand over the password and walk away? Or will you try something heroic and stupid?" Damian's thumb moved across his phone screen. "Password sent. Check your email." Sarnov gestured to one of his men. The man pulled out a tablet, verified, nodded. "It works," he confirmed. Sarnov's smile returned. "How disappointing. I hoped you'd fight. Make this interesting. But you're just a businessman after all. No honor, no loyalty. Just—" The explosion cut him off. The shipping container behind Alexandra erupted in fire and shrapnel. The blast wave knocked everyone flat. Nadia's ears rang. Smoke billowed across the pier. "Go!" Damian was pulling her up. "Now!" He had Anna in one arm, Nadia in the other. They ran through smoke and chaos while gunfire erupted again. Victor appeared beside them, laying down cover fire. A black van screamed onto the access road, doors already open. Marcus at the wheel. They piled in. The van was moving before the doors closed. Bullets punched through the rear windows. Safety glass spiderwebbed. Someone was screaming. Might have been Nadia. The van fishtailed around a corner, then another. The waterfront disappeared behind them. "What the hell was that?" Nadia gasped. "Shaped charges," Damian said. "Victor planted them this afternoon. Remote detonation." He was checking Anna's vitals. "She's okay. Shocked, but okay." "You blew up half the pier." "I blew up one container, as a distraction." He met her eyes. "Did you really think I'd just hand Sarnov the password and trust him to let us walk?" "You gave him a fake. The real password's still with me. He'll figure it out in about 10 minutes. By then we need to be gone." "Gone where?" "He knows every location we have, every safe house, Not every location." Damian pulled out his phone, dialed. "Prep the helicopter. Yes, now. We're going to the island." "What island?" Anna croaked. "Private property. 20 miles off the coast. No one knows about it except my inner circle." He looked at Nadia. "And after tonight, I'm not sure who I can trust in that circle anymore." The van merged onto the highway. Manhattan's lights receded behind them. Nadia held her mother close, feeling her heartbeat. Alive. Both of them alive. For now. This isn't over, she said. No, Damien agreed. It's just beginning. Sarnov's going to realize we played him. He's going to come with everything he has, every resource, every connection. So what do we do? Damien's eyes were hard as diamonds. We use the time we bought. We decrypt the rest of your father's files. We find out exactly what he knew, and we turn that information into a weapon strong enough to end Viktor Sarnov permanently. And if it's not enough, then we die fighting. The van pulled into a private airfield. A helicopter sat waiting, rotors already spinning. They transferred quickly. Anna in a medical stretcher, Nadia beside her, Damien coordinating with Viktor over encrypted channels. The helicopter lifted off. Manhattan spread below them like a circuit board. Millions of lights. Millions of lives. Somewhere down there, Viktor Sarnov was realizing he'd been played, mobilizing his forces, preparing for war, and here they were, flying toward an island that might be sanctuary or might be a tomb. Nadia looked at the USB drive still clutched in her hand, her father's legacy, her family's curse, $30 million and enough secrets to destroy an empire, all of it leading to this moment, this helicopter, this impossible choice between survival and revenge. Her mother squeezed her hand. Whatever happens next, I'm proud of you. We're not dead yet, Mama. I know, but just in case, I needed you to hear it. The helicopter banked east, toward the ocean, toward whatever waited on that island. Damien sat across from them, face illuminated by his phone screen, making plans, calling in favors, building whatever defense he thought could stop what was coming. And Nadia realized with perfect clarity that there was no going back now, no return to normal, no pretending this was all just a bad dream. She'd kissed a killer, trusted a liar, thrown her father's legacy into the Hudson and pulled it back out again. She'd become exactly the kind of person her mother had warned her about. Reckless, dangerous, willing to burn the world down to protect the people she loved. The helicopter crossed the coastline. Darkness swallowed them. And somewhere ahead, an island waited. With answers. With weapons. With the final pieces of a puzzle her father had died protecting. Nadia looked at Damien. When we get there, we decrypt everything. No more secrets. No more holding back. I want to know exactly what my father discovered. Exactly what we're fighting for. Agreed. And then? Then we go to war. His smile was sharp enough to cut. Viktor Sarnov wants to play games? Fine. We'll show him what happens when you corner someone with nothing left to lose. The island appeared on the horizon, a dark shape against darker water. Nadia tightened her grip on her mother's hand. On the USB drive. On the last fragile thread of hope that somehow, impossibly, they might actually survive what came next. The helicopter began its descent, and the war for everything began in earnest. The island rose from the Atlantic like a fist of black stone in defiance. Nadia stepped off the helicopter onto a landing pad carved into granite, wind whipping her hair into her face while salt spray stung her eyes. Below them, waves crashed against cliffs that dropped 100 feet straight down. Above, a structure that was half fortress, half mansion, clung to the highest point, all steel and bulletproof glass reflecting moonlight like armor. This was where Damien Krylov had built his final sanctuary. This was where everything would end. Medical staff appeared from the main building, rushing toward Anna with a stretcher and equipment. Her mother tried to wave them off, but her strength was gone, burned through by terror and medication and the cancer that never stopped eating her from the inside. I'm fine, Anna protested weakly. You're not. Damien nodded to the lead medic. Get her stabilized. Full workup. I want to know exactly what they gave her and how it's interacting with her treatment. They wheeled Anna inside. She reached for Nadia's hand as they passed. Don't do anything stupid while I'm unconscious. Too late for that, Mama. Anna's laugh turned into a cough. Then she was gone, disappearing into the building's antiseptic brightness. Nadia stood on the landing pad, suddenly alone with Damien and the wind and the crushing weight of everything that had happened in the last 48 hours. She'll be okay, Damien said quietly. I have the best doctors money can buy. Don't. Nadia's voice came out flat. Don't make promises you can't keep. The cancer's stage 4. We both know what that means. He didn't argue. Just stood there in the wind, hands in his pockets, looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. "Come inside," he said finally. "We have work to do." The island facility was everything the penthouse wasn't. No expensive art, no minimalist design, just functional space built for one purpose: survival. Communication center, armory, medical bay, living quarters designed to withstand siege. Victor was already there, coordinating with what remained of their security team. His face was grim. Perimeters secure. Sarnov doesn't know about this location, but that won't last. Alexandra had access to too much. She'll piece it together eventually. "How long do we have?" Damien asked. 12 hours. Maybe less if they're faster than I think." "Then we work fast." Damien turned to Nadia. "The USB drive. We need to decrypt everything. Find out exactly what your father knew." They set up in what Damien called the war room, banks of computers, encrypted servers, technology that probably cost more than most small countries' GDP. Nadia plugged in the drive. Her father's files bloomed across multiple screens like a nightmare garden. Financial records, communication logs, photographs of men in expensive suits shaking hands with men in military uniforms, documents bearing government seals from a dozen countries. Viktor Sarnov's empire laid bare in excruciating detail. But there was something else, hidden in a subfolder marked only with a date. June 17th, 2014. 3 days before her father died. Nadia opened it with shaking hands. Video file. Security footage from what looked like a warehouse. She pressed play. The image was grainy, time-stamped. Her father sat in a chair, hands bound, face already bloodied. 2 men stood over him, one she didn't recognize, the other, "That's not you," Nadia breathed, looking at Damien. On screen, the interrogation continued, the unknown man circling, asking questions in Russian about account numbers. Access codes. Her father refusing, screaming when they hurt him. And in the corner of the frame, barely visible, a younger Damien Krylov with a gun trained on someone off camera, not participating in the torture, stopping it. The video jumped, edited. When it resumed, bodies littered the floor. Her father was slumped in the chair, barely conscious, and Damien was cutting him free, pressing something into his hands. "The USB drive," Victor said quietly. "Your father gave it to Damien that night. Told him to keep it safe. Use it if anything happened." Nadia turned to Damien. "You've had this the whole time?" "No. Your father took it back. Said he needed to hide it somewhere even I couldn't find. Somewhere only his family would think to look." Damien's jaw worked. "I tried to get him out, tried to extract him before Sarnov's reinforcements arrived, but we were too late. They came back, and I had to choose between saving him and saving the drive. The evidence. You chose the drive. I chose the mission, the greater good. All the people that information could save." His voice cracked. "And I've hated myself for it every day since." The truth of it hung in the air like smoke. Nadia wanted to scream at him, wanted to rage against the choice he'd made. Her father's life weighed against abstract justice. But she'd made similar choices herself over the last 2 days, chosen survival over sentiment, strategy over emotion. Maybe they weren't so different after all. "There's more," Victor said, pointing to another folder. Nadia opened it. Financial transactions, hundreds of them, money flowing from Sarnov's accounts into... Her breath stopped. "These are cancer research facilities," she said. "Treatment centers, experimental programs." "Your father didn't just steal the money," Victor said quietly. "He laundered it, cleaned it, funneled it into legitimate medical research. He was trying to find a cure for Mama." Nadia's vision blurred. "He knew she was sick before anyone else did. Knew it was coming." "He spent 2 years setting this up," Damien added. "The accounts, the research grants, the trust that paid for your mother's treatment and the storage unit, all of it funded by Sarnov's stolen money. Dirty money turned into something that could save lives." The irony was almost beautiful, almost unbearable. "So what do we do with it?" Nadia asked. "We can't give Sarnov access. He'll just steal it back. Use it to fund more violence. We don't give him anything." Damien pulled up a new screen. "We use the insurance file, release it to every law enforcement agency simultaneously, destroy his organization from the inside." That'll start a war. Every criminal enterprise connected to Sarnov will come after us. They'll try, but without Sarnov coordinating them, without his resources, they'll tear each other apart fighting over the scraps. Damien's smile was cold. We don't need to win. We just need to make sure he loses. Victor's phone buzzed. He checked it, went pale. Boss, we have a problem. What now? Satellite imagery shows boats approaching. 6 of them, military grade, they're not ours. Damien swore. How long? 30 minutes, maybe less. Alexandra moved faster than we thought. Or she knew about this place all along and was just waiting for the right moment. Victor was already moving toward the door. I'll mobilize defenses. We can hold them off for a while, but we're outnumbered and trapped on an island with no evacuation options. Damien looked at Nadia. This is it. End of the line. You need to decide right now. Do we release the files, or do we use them as leverage to negotiate? You said Sarnoff wouldn't negotiate. He won't, not in good faith. But he might offer a temporary truce, enough time to get your mother off this island. Get her somewhere safe. And then what? We spend the rest of our lives running, looking over our shoulders? Probably. Nadia thought about her father, about the choice he'd made, stealing from monsters to save his wife, building something good out of blood money. She thought about her mother, drugged and vulnerable in the medical bay, years of suffering, years of fighting. And she thought about Damien, this complicated, violent, broken man who'd spent 12 years trying to atone for one terrible choice. We release it, she said. Everything, right now, before they get here. Nadia. My father didn't die so we could keep using his work as leverage. He died trying to build something better, so that's what we do. We tear down Sarnov's empire and we use the money the way Papa intended. For research. For treatment. For everyone suffering the way Mama suffered. Damien studied her face. You understand what that means? The moment we release this, we become targets. Every criminal organization in the Western Hemisphere will want us dead. Then we better make sure we're worth more alive than dead. She pulled up the file directory. Show me how to send this. Victor returned. They're 15 minutes out. We need to decide now. We're releasing everything, Damien said. He started typing, pulling up contact lists. Federal prosecutors, FBI field offices, Interpol divisions, international criminal courts. Victor, I need you to coordinate physical defense. Buy us as much time as you can. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure that even if we don't survive this, Sarnov goes down with us. The next 10 minutes were controlled chaos. Damien and Nadia uploading files, Victor coordinating defensive positions, medical staff preparing to evacuate Anna if possible. The files went out in waves, dozens of emails, encrypted packages, digital deadman switches that would trigger if they didn't check in at regular intervals. By the time they finished, Victor Sarnov's entire criminal empire was bleeding out across secure servers in 100 jurisdictions. It's done, Damien said quietly. Nadia felt the weight of it. Her father's legacy finally unleashed. 12 years of hiding, 12 years of fear, all of it ending in one massive betrayal of everything Sarnov had built. They're here, Victor called from the communications center. On screen, boats were pulling up to the island's dock, men deploying with military precision, at least 30 of them, maybe more, and walking among them, flanked by bodyguards, Victor Sarnov himself. He came personally, Nadia breathed. Of course he did. This isn't just business anymore, this is personal. Damien checked his weapon. Stay here. Stay with your mother. Victor and I will... No. Nadia grabbed his arm. We're in this together. You said it yourself. No more secrets. No more protection. Either we face this as partners or not at all. Nadia, don't make me pull rank. I'm the one with the legal claim to my father's estate. Technically, all of this is mine. So either you treat me like an equal or I walk out there alone. Damien's expression shifted. Frustration. Pride. Something that looked almost like love. You're insane. I learned from the best. He kissed her then. Hard. Desperate. The kiss of someone who thought it might be the last one. When they broke apart, his eyes were fierce. If this goes bad, it's already bad, but we're still here, still fighting. She touched his face. Whatever happens next, thank you. For trying. For caring. for being the kind of person who spent 12 years hating himself for one mistake. That's not. It is. And it matters. You matter. She smiled. Now, let's go end this. They moved through the facility toward the main entrance. Victor had positioned their remaining security team at strategic choke points. Not enough to win, just enough to make victory expensive. The facility's main doors were reinforced steel, blast-resistant, but Sarnov's people had brought cutting torches. "We have maybe 5 minutes before they breach," Victor said. Damien pulled up the external cameras. Sarnov stood behind his assault team, hands in his coat pockets, looking patient, like he had all the time in the world, which he probably did. "Open a channel," Damien said. "Let me talk to him." Victor activated the external speakers. Damien's voice echoed across the landing area. "Victor, this is over. By now, every law enforcement agency in the world has everything. Your accounts are frozen. Your associates are being arrested. Your empire is finished." Sarnov's laugh crackled through the speakers. "You think I survived this long by being careless? You think I don't have contingencies, backups? By tomorrow, I'll have new accounts, new operations, and you'll be dead, maybe. But you'll spend the rest of your life running, looking over your shoulder, wondering which associate is going to turn on you for a plea deal. Is that really how you want to end, as a fugitive?" "Better than ending as a corpse," Sarnov gestured. His men intensified their cutting. "I'm giving you one chance, Damien. Send out Alexei's daughter with every copy of those files. Do that, and I'll let you and the mother live. My word. Your word isn't worth shit." "Probably not, but it's the only offer you're getting." Damien looked at Nadia. "Your call." She thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Tell him to go to hell." Damien smiled, turned back to the microphone. "The lady says—" The explosion cut him off. Not from the doors, from inside the facility. The floor buckled. Nadia went down hard. Smoke billowed through the corridors. Alarms shrieked. "Internal breach," Victor was shouting. "They had someone inside. Gunfire erupted from behind them." Nadia looked back, saw medical staff running, saw security personnel falling, saw a figure in tactical gear moving through the smoke with professional efficiency. Alexandra. "She was here the whole time," Damien snarled, "waiting for us to arrive, waiting for the perfect moment." Alexandra emerged from the smoke, weapon raised, blood on her tactical vest. Not hers. "Surprised," she said, then opened fire. Damien shoved Nadia down, returned fire. Victor was moving, flanking. The corridor became a kill box. Nadia's ears rang. She couldn't hear, couldn't think, just crawled toward cover while bullets tore through the air above her. Someone grabbed her ankle. She kicked, connected with something soft, heard a grunt. Then Damien was there, hauling her up, dragging her toward a side corridor while Victor laid down, suppressing fire. They burst into the medical bay. Anna was sitting up in bed, IV lines trailing from her arms, eyes wide with terror. "What's happening?" she asked. "We're leaving," Nadia said. Tore the IV out. "Now." "I can't." "Yes, you can. We didn't survive this long to die in a hospital bed." Anna tried to stand. Her legs buckled. Damien caught her. "Service elevator," he said. "Takes us down to the dock. If we can get to a boat—" "The dock's controlled by Sarnov's people," Victor interjected, appearing in the doorway. "We'll never make it." "Then we make them an offer they can't refuse." Damien pulled out his phone, held it up. "I'm transmitting our location to the FBI, Coast Guard, everyone, telling them we have Victor Sarnov cornered and requesting immediate assistance." "They'll never get here in time." "They don't have to. Sarnov just needs to think they're coming, needs to decide whether capturing us is worth getting arrested himself." It was insane. It was brilliant. It was their only chance. Damien sent the transmission, then activated the facility's PA system. "Victor, in 30 minutes, this island will be swarming with federal agents. You can stay and fight, get arrested or killed, or you can cut your losses and run while you still can. Your choice." The response was immediate. More gunfire, closer now. They weren't leaving. "Plan B," Victor said. "We fight our way to the helicopter. Get airborne before they can stop us." "The helicopter only holds 4, Damien said, "and we have 6 people, including Anna and medical staff." "Then we make 2 trips." "We don't have time for 2 trips." The math was brutal. Someone would have to stay behind. Someone would have to buy time for the others to escape. Nadia saw the decision forming on Damien's face, saw him calculating, saw him preparing to sacrifice himself. "No," she said. "Nadia, I said no. We're not doing this. We're not playing hero. Either we all leave or none of us do." "That's not realistic." "I don't care about realistic," her voice broke. "I've spent my entire life watching people die to protect me. My father died. You almost died. I'm not losing anyone else. Not you, not Victor, not anyone." Anna's hand found hers, squeezed. "Dochka, sometimes survival means letting go." "I can't." "You can. You have to." Her mother's eyes were clear despite the exhaustion. "Your father made his choice. Damien's making his, and now you have to make yours. Save yourself. Save the work your father started. Don't let it end here." "Mama!" The explosion was massive. The entire facility shook, lights flickered. Somewhere, structural supports groaned. "They're bringing down the building," Victor said. "We have maybe minutes before this whole place comes apart." Damien made the decision, grabbed Anna, started moving toward the elevator. "Victor, with me. Nadia, stay close." They ran through smoke and chaos. The facility was collapsing around them. Ceiling tiles crashed down, walls cracked. The island itself seemed to be rejecting the violence committed on its surface. They reached the service elevator. Damien hit the button. Nothing. "Power's out," Victor said. He pried open the doors, revealed a shaft descending into darkness. "We climb." Anna couldn't climb, could barely walk. Damien hoisted her over his shoulder in a fireman's carry, started down the maintenance ladder with one arm. Impossible, suicidal. But he did it anyway. Nadia followed, then Victor. Above them, more explosions. The facility was dying. They descended through darkness. Nadia's arms burned. Her grip kept slipping. Below she could hear the ocean, smell salt water. Damien reached the bottom first. A maintenance tunnel. The sound of waves closer now. They stumbled through the tunnel, emerged onto a boathouse carved into the cliff face. 2 small craft bobbed in the water. Emergency vessels. "Get in," Damien ordered. They piled into the boats. Victor started one engine, Damien the other. The boats roared to life, pulled away from the dock just as part of the cliff face collapsed behind them. They cut through dark water, away from the island, away from the facility that was now burning like a funeral pyre against the night sky. Behind them, Sarnov's boats were giving chase. Faster, better armed, but ahead. "Contact," Victor shouted. "Coast Guard cutters, 3 of them." Lights blazed across the water. Official vessels moving to intercept. Sarnov's boats peeled off, disappeared into the darkness rather than risk confrontation with federal authorities. The chase was over. The war was finished. Nadia sat in the small boat holding her mother, watching the island burn, while Coast Guard vessels surrounded them and officious voices demanded identification and explanations. Damien was already on his phone, calling lawyers, coordinating with the federal prosecutors who'd received the files, building whatever legal defense would keep them out of prison. It took 6 hours to sort everything out. Coast Guard brought them to shore. FBI took statements. Prosecutors verified the files. By sunrise, warrants were being issued across 3 continents. Viktor Sarnov's empire collapsed in real time. Accounts frozen, associates arrested, operations shut down. The dominoes falling exactly as Damien predicted. And somewhere in the chaos, Sarnov himself disappeared, vanished into whatever holes men like him kept ready for emergencies. Gone, but not forgotten. Not forgiven. Just gone. Quote. 3 months later, Manhattan looked the same as always. Glass and steel. Endless ambition. The city that never stopped consuming itself and being reborn. Nadia stood on a different rooftop now. Not Damien's penthouse. That had been sold. The proceeds funneled into the foundation they'd established. The Valenko Initiative. Her father's stolen money, cleaned, legitimized, multiplied through careful investment, now funded cancer research across 15 countries. Treatment centers for people who couldn't afford care, support networks for families watching their loved ones die. Dirty money scrubbed clean through the simple act of helping people survive. Anna was in remission. The experimental treatment funded by the foundation had worked where traditional therapy failed. She was weak, would always be weak, but alive, present. That was enough. Damien appeared beside Nadia on the rooftop. He moved quieter now, less like a predator, more like someone who'd learned to exist without constant vigilance. His empire had changed too. The violent branches severed, the legitimate businesses expanded. He'd become what he'd always pretended to be, a businessman operating in daylight instead of shadows. Mostly, some habits died hard. "Your mother called," he said. "Says you're late for dinner." "I'm always late for dinner. She said to remind you that she's dying and you should respect her time." Nadia laughed. "She's been in remission for 3 months. She's going to milk the guilt trip for years." "Probably." Damien leaned against the railing. "Victor's been spotted in Prague. My contacts say he's trying to rebuild. Smaller operation, more careful. Should we be worried? Maybe, but he's a ghost now. No resources, no network, just a bitter old man running from his past. Like us. We're not running, we're moving forward. There's a difference." Nadia wasn't sure she believed that, but she wanted to. Wanted to believe they could outrun the violence that had defined both their lives. Wanted to believe in second chances. "The Foundation's opening 2 more research centers next month," she said. "Boston and Seattle. Full funding for 5 years. Your father would be proud." "My father was a thief." "Your father was a man trying to save his wife. Everything else was just details." Damien's hand found hers. "You know what I think? I think he'd be proud that you took his worst decision and turned it into something that helps people. That's redemption. Real redemption. Is that what we're doing? Redeeming ourselves?" "I don't know. But it's better than the alternative." They stood in silence, watching the city breathe, watching millions of lights flicker against the gathering dark. Somewhere below, Anna was setting the table for dinner, complaining about her daughter's chronic lateness, planning next week's treatment schedule and next month's fundraiser gala. Living. Somewhere in Europe, Viktor Sarnov was hiding, plotting, hating them with the intensity of someone who'd lost everything. Let him hate. Let him plot. They'd faced worse and survived. "We should go," Nadia said, "before Mama actually does guilt me to death." "In a minute." Damien pulled her closer. "I need to ask you something first." "That sounds ominous." "It's not ominous, it's—" He stopped, started again. "We've been through hell together, literally. Bullets and explosions and family trauma, and I know this is fast. I know we're both damaged people trying to build something healthy out of dysfunction, but... Damien, let me finish, please." She nodded. "I love you," he said quietly, not the obsessive stalker version from before, not the desperate attempt at redemption, just you. The woman who jumped in the Hudson rather than trust either side. The woman who held her dying mother while bullets flew past. The woman who chose to burn down an empire instead of using it as leverage. I love you. And I want to spend whatever time we have left making sure you never regret taking a chance on a man who didn't deserve it." Nadia felt tears burning. "You're right." "About what?" "This is fast, and we're definitely damaged, and this is probably a terrible idea." His face fell slightly. "Oh, but..." She kissed him, soft, real. "I love you too. God help me. I love you despite every logical reason not to, despite the violence and the manipulation and the fact that you stalked me for 3 years before we met. When you put it that way..." "Shut up. I'm not finished." She cupped his face. "You're not the man who let my father die. You're the man who spent 12 years trying to atone for that choice. You're not perfect. Neither am I. But maybe that's the point. Maybe redemption isn't about becoming perfect. It's about choosing to be better, every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." Damien pulled her into his arms, held her like she was the only solid thing in a world made of smoke. "So is that a yes?" he asked against her hair. "A yes to what? You didn't actually ask a question." "Nadia Katerina Valenko, will you marry me?" She pulled back to look at him. "You don't even have a ring." "I have 3 rings, different styles. Wasn't sure which you'd prefer. They're in my coat pocket." Despite everything, despite the trauma and the fear and the weight of the last 3 months, Nadia laughed, actually laughed, You're insane. You already said yes to loving me. Marriage is just paperwork. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. It's the only proposal you've ever heard. Fair point. She pretended to consider. Ask me again in a year, after we've had time to process our collective trauma and maybe attended some therapy. That's reasonable. And after you've officially dismantled the last of your criminal enterprises. Also reasonable. And after my mother's been in full remission for at least 12 months. Getting less reasonable, but still possible. And after you stop having your security team follow me everywhere. Now you're just being unrealistic. She kissed him again. Ask me in a year, if we're both still alive, still together, still trying to be better than we were. Ask me then and I'll say yes. Promise? Promise. They stayed on the rooftop for another few minutes, holding each other, watching the city that had tried to kill them and failed. Then Nadia's phone rang. Her mother. Again. We're really late now, she said. She'll forgive us. She absolutely will not. They took the stairs down instead of the elevator. Nadia's hand in Damien's. Their future uncertain but no longer defined by their past. Viktor Sarnov was still out there. Other enemies too, probably. Men who wanted revenge, who wanted the money, who wanted blood. Let them come. Nadia had faced worse, had survived worse, and she'd do it again if she had to. But tonight she was having dinner with her mother and the man she loved, despite every logical reason not to. Tonight she was alive. Both of them alive. That was enough. That was everything. The elevator doors opened on her mother's floor. Anna stood in the hallway, arms crossed, expression stern. You're 45 minutes late. Sorry, Mama. I don't want excuses. I want you to sit down and eat the dinner I spent 3 hours preparing while I was supposed to be resting. Yes, Mama. They followed her inside. The apartment smelled like borscht and black bread and all the comforts of a childhood Nadia barely remembered. Anna had set 3 places at the table. Candles lit, wine poured. They sat, ate, talked about mundane things. The Foundation's next event. Anna's upcoming doctor's appointment. Whether the Yankees had any chance this season. Normal things, boring things, the kind of things people who weren't running for their lives got to worry about. And when dinner was finished and the dishes cleared and Anna had retired to her room with a cup of tea and a crossword puzzle, Nadia and Damien stood on the small balcony overlooking the street. 1 year, Damien said. 1 year, Nadia agreed. Think we'll make it? She thought about her father, about the choices he'd made, the prices he'd paid, the legacy he'd left behind in coded files and stolen money, and a daughter who'd learned that sometimes surviving meant becoming someone you didn't recognize. She thought about her mother, fighting cancer with the same stubborn determination she'd fought poverty and fear and the memory of losing her husband. She thought about Damien, this complicated, violent, tender man who'd spent 12 years hating himself for one mistake and building an empire on guilt. And she thought about herself, 27 years old, orphaned by crime, hardened by survival, learning slowly that strength wasn't just endurance. It was also the courage to be soft, to trust, to love. Yeah, she said finally, I think we'll make it. Even with all the chaos, all the danger, especially because of it. We've been through the worst already. Everything else is just life. Damien pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. I love you. I know. That's my line. I'm stealing it. Deal with it. They stood on the balcony while the city hummed around them. Sirens in the distance, car horns, the endless soundtrack of Manhattan nights. Somewhere in that vast darkness, Viktor Sarnov was plotting revenge. Somewhere, federal prosecutors were building cases that would take years to resolve. Somewhere, cancer cells were dividing and dying in her mother's body. The eternal war between treatment and disease. But here, right here, on a small balcony in a modest apartment with the man she'd chosen and the mother she'd saved, Nadia Valenko was home. Not safe. Probably never safe. But home. And for the first time in 12 years, that was enough. The city lights burned bright against the dark. A billion stories unfolding. A billion people fighting their own wars against fate and circumstance and the crushing weight of simply trying to survive. Nadia was just one of them now. No longer running. No longer hiding. Just living. One day at a time. One choice at a time. One small act of courage, or kindness, or defiance at a time. Building something new from the ruins of everything that came before. Her father had died for this chance. Her mother had suffered for it. Damien had spent 12 years earning it, and Nadia was going to make damn sure it counted. She pulled away from Damien slightly. Come on, Mama wants us to watch her favorite show with her. The one about the baking competition? The very same. I hate that show. I know, but we're watching it anyway, because that's what family does. Is that what we are? Family? Nadia thought about it. About chosen bonds versus blood bonds. About the people who stayed versus the people who left. About loyalty earned through shared trauma and mutual survival. Yeah, she said. I think we are. They went inside, sat on the couch with Anna between them, watched contestants argue about fondant and ganache while her mother provided running commentary on their technique. Normal. Boring. Perfect. And when the show ended and Anna dozed off between them, her breathing steady and strong, Nadia caught Damien's eye across her mother's sleeping form. He smiled. Small. Real. She smiled back. No words needed, just the quiet understanding that they'd made it. Against impossible odds. Against every logical probability. They'd survived. And tomorrow they'd wake up and do it again, and the day after that, and the day after that. For as long as they had. For as long as the world allowed. Building something beautiful out of blood and broken pieces and the stubborn refusal to let darkness win. Outside the window, snow began to fall. The first of the season, soft white flakes drifting down like forgiveness, like grace, like the promise that even the dirtiest city could be covered in something clean, even if only for a moment. Nadia watched it fall and thought about her father's final gift. Not the money, not the secrets, but the choice. The chance to take something broken and make it whole, to take something dark and turn it toward light, to survive not just physically but spiritually. That was the real inheritance. That was what mattered. And Nadia Valenko, orphan, survivor, daughter of thieves and dreams, was going to honor it the only way she knew how. By living, fiercely, completely, without apology. And when her time came, when the universe finally collected its debt, she'd face it the same way her father had. The same way her mother was facing cancer, the same way Damien had faced 12 years of guilt, with eyes open, with heart intact, with the knowledge that she'd done everything possible to make the world slightly less terrible than she'd found it. That would be enough. That would be everything. The snow kept falling, and inside a small apartment in Manhattan, 3 people who'd survived hell slept peacefully while the city dreamed around them, alive, together, home.